Welcome, everybody, to Tech Charged, a Turn Down for What podcast live. It is Wednesday evening, unless you're in Tokyo, Japan. For you guys, happy Thursday morning. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, you're having a good day wherever you are, or a good evening, depending on where you're joining us. You can chat in with us if you are on YouTube. You can follow us along on X. We've got Martin from Martin Rebuilds hanging out with us from Kansas. We've got Jace Kraft Miller from the great state of Ohio, and myself from Bow Family EV from California, the only place with sunlight right now. So for the two of you guys don't have sunlight in Ohio yet, right? You guys are still in the dark? Yeah.
It's dark. We're in the dark. Yeah. We're in the dark, sadly.
Now,
I gotta turn this thing off real quick, guys. It's like making noises.
Is it popping?
It's like popping, and it's like the neon gas or whatever it is, or LED in there. It's like making noise. I don't know.
So I have that same sign. I should mail it to you, Jay, so you don't get like electrocuted.
I know. It's ran off a double A batteries too. It's weird. I'll see if it stops now. I turn it off, but
I say you leave it on for great content. Let's see what sparks.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, we'll get a Tom Malogany with a earthquake.
With the earthquake.
I was watching that live when it happened. Oh my god, it was crazy.
That's what I was thinking too, man. That would be. Did you see Jace's house exploded?
Yeah,
all from a Ford neon sign.
It's
still
making noise.
Well, it's great to have
sounds
you guys
like running water. It's weird.
Really,
we don't really hear it.
No,
it's so odd.
Oh man,
maybe throw that neon thing outside.
I just put new batteries in it, so that's why I'm like literally maybe like 30 minutes ago I put new batteries in it, so I don't know.
So the title was one thing, but we're gonna morph it into let's watch Jace's sign explode.
Yeah, if you're a neon expert, chime in the comments. What does a sizzling neon sign mean? Something is going on.
It's probably not real neon. It's just like my sign. This is not real neon.
Shoot. You guys. LED. Oh, the battery exploded. The AA.
Oh, no way.
And it's exploding right now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, go take care of that. I can send him some Tesla modules to put in there.
That would be cool, powered by Tesla or Energizer. If Energizer would like to sponsor us, that was a Duracell battery, not sponsored. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Hey, that's appropriate. Tech Charged. I mean, it's all things battery, right?
Yeah. That's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So while we let Jace make sure that his sign is not on fire from his Duracell battery, that's awkward. How have you been, Martin? You've been out for a couple weeks. Like, I know you've had a couple new vehicles in the rebuild shop.
Yeah. The shop's been really slow for the last couple of weeks, for 3 weeks for sure, because I went under the knife 3 weeks ago this Friday. So carpal tunnel surgery in both hands at once. And for those of you listening, this has nothing to do with Tech Charged or whatever, but if you decide you want to do that, make sure you have help, because you are down for at least a week. Like, I couldn't do anything, and I won't get all the graphics of it, but you can imagine what you can't do without two hands. So yeah, I was down. Took about a week before I was able to do most anything. I went back to work about a week later, but I couldn't do much. It's hard to open a door. So but we've got, man, all kinds of things happening at the shop. Bought another Tesla a couple days ago. We've got 5 cars here to work on now. And Ruby, the new red Lightning that I just feel like I finished, I found out today it's sold. So
wow.
Yeah. It's going to Texas, I believe, in, I hope, a couple of weeks. I don't know if he listens to this, but if Josh is listening, not our Josh, by the way, he was wanting my white XLT, and so that might be a good to talk about. So if you're looking at trucks and you're trying to weigh out an XLT, of course, in the older ones, the 22s or 23s, versus a Lariat. Of course, mine's a 302A high spec ER XLT versus a fully loaded ER Lariat. You're like, which do you pick? And I was pricing those two trucks $5,000 difference. And I was trying to lean him towards the Lariat because to me, you get Blue Cruise and the cooled seats and a little more stuff. It's not actually a drastic difference. This XLT spec has, everything: Pro Power, ER, heated seats, tailgate, power tailgate. It's pretty well fully loaded for an XLT. Well, anyway, I got to talking through Blue Cruise with him, and I told him it's still got another year because they did the extended Blue Cruise on most of the Lightnings, I believe. And so he's like, yeah, I think I want that. So I think it's going to
There's actually news on that front today that Ford started today or yesterday. Ford started sending out 3-month trials to folks. Yeah, to folks who have maybe either had them expire previously or haven't re-upped. I don't really know exactly who they chose and who seems like 22s, 23s. Maybe even some 24s in there too. So yeah.
So I've seen that on the Mach-E forum. I hadn't seen it on Lightnings yet. Have you had anybody with Lightning that got the 3-month?
Yes, yeah, both of them. Yep. And it's actually showing up not only on the Ford app and they're getting a message, but I've actually saw a guy just a little bit ago posting in the Lightning group. It showed up on his main infotainment screen.
Oh, that's new.
Speak of the topic.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Electrified overlanding. Electrified overlanding, did you get it? 25 or 24 Lightnings, he says, got it too. I got an email for it, and I don't know if that was a remnant of my 22 Lightning, because that would have expired. Had I still had it, that would have expired at the 3-year mark at the end of July.
Well, you didn't have Blue Cruise.
True. Actually, you're right. I didn't have Blue Cruise, so it couldn't have been for that. So that's weird because I still have Blue Cruise with mine. So I don't know.
Did you get an email that said yours is? Oh no, because yours is 25, so you would have had 1.4. Because I got another email today that said your Blue Cruise has been updated to a new version, which happened a couple weeks ago for our 24s. We got moved to 1.4, but lots of Blue Cruise emails and news and stuff going out. But I'm glad that they're giving the three months away. I think that's.
Our Mach-E expires in 2 weeks, and
oh wow,
it's already been through the 1-year extension. So I don't know if you have to be after that or before that or what they're doing on what triggers.
Yeah, let's cover that real quick too, just for people who are tuning in that maybe didn't know about that too. There's kind of 2 different extensions. The one we're talking about is new today. There was one previously that Ford did, what would you say, maybe a year ago now, probably maybe 10 months or so. Yeah. Where they gave people a free year of Blue Cruise for basically, it seemed like early adopters for that one, more like 22s, 23s. I believe we got it on our truck as well. So that was nice.
I don't think we got to it, but yeah. It's probably expiring about now on my 22 or pretty close. The 21 Mach-E it expires in 2 weeks. So that car, my daughter's actually going to drive it to Florida. And it's going to expire while she's there. So it'll be interesting if the 3-month comes to us while she can continue to use it. So
I've heard kind of mixed things. I've heard some people say that it expired and boom, it was gone. And then I've heard some people say, oh, mine expired and it stayed around. So I wonder if some of that maybe has something to do if they had the free year offered to them or whatnot,
We'll see. She will be driving it when it expires, so I'll ask her if it's still working.
Yeah, I'll be right on the middle of right as she's in the middle of the highway,
middle of the highway. Crap, take control.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, so mine's still a year out on the red truck, so it expires in 12 the day after Christmas or something, and it's gonna be another year. So the guy I'm selling it to was excited to have it for another year, and then I told him, I said it's $50 a month, so you can pay for it kind of as you go. Or you can pay, I was at $495 for a whole year.
There was another update on that actually too last week that Ford offered, I believe it was for 3 months. So you would essentially finish out the year plus January. And they were giving people, I think it was I want to say 35 a month instead of the 50 a month.
Oh, wow. Now, see, that's where you get in the territory where it's good.
Yeah, exactly. They're starting to offer deals for folks, that, and I'm sure they have all the data on who they're. Yeah, I know. The one guy that I was seeing posted said he was that's getting close to where I would, consider actually doing it. So.
Yeah, 20.
Chris, you got 1 year on yours?
Yeah, mine came with 1 year. So we'll have to see, a year from now. I'll probably let it cancel if they don't, to see if they have some type of deal or special to try to. I typically do that with any kind of subscription. It seems like a lot of places they'll try.
And it seems like they're starting to do it. So yeah.
That's kind of interesting, like deals. And this is completely off topic, but you made me think of it. If you're going to buy something on eBay, go look at it and then close it. And a little later, they'll send you an offer.
Yep. It's same with like Southwest hotels. We do that all the time. We'll open it up, say, "Oh, we want to go here," and then now and then an hour later you go back and they're like, "Oh, we'll offer you 5,000 points instead of 2,500 points."
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. It was nice. Our 24 Platinums came with 3 years, so that was. It stinks they got rid of that package on Platinum because it was nice to just lump it all. I mean, you could have anyway, I suppose, if you really, really, really wanted to. You could have added it on in addition.
How much do you guys use it actually? So I'm remote. I'm an hour away from the closest Blue Cruise road.
Yeah, we use it every day. Justin, it was some ridiculous amount of mileage in 2024. Certain Blue Cruise users were Ford offered to show us our data essentially for the year. We had to agree to it. We were some like 5,000 miles in the year combined between us. And it wasn't even, that long. There was more data that wasn't there essentially. But yeah, we use it every day. I mean, but again, Cleveland, Michigan, really Great Lakes in general is very, very well covered by Blue Cruise, especially obviously being close to Detroit. They, cover a lot of roads there, but
Chris, how's it in San Francisco? Like through the slower streets, does it work very well?
I mean, through the streets, it's not going to work really at all.
I didn't know how tight that got in those. Because some of your streets are like they're 4-lane, but I didn't know if it was Blue Cruise in the smaller, like the 50-mile-an-hour stuff.
I mean, through the different freeways, the major freeways, it'll work through all of those. There's a couple where the turns are too tight, like the torque. It requires too much torque and it will disengage. And that's fine. You kind of get used to where those different areas are. Bay Area traffic, what gets me on it, honestly, is there's just so much traffic here, and the braking and the acceleration is just so abrupt. It's not smooth at all for me, and so I tend not to use it unless it is wide open. So there's times in the Bay Area when I'm going to like a 49er game, so I'm waking up really early in the morning. If it's a 1 o'clock game, I'm leaving the house at 7:30 in the morning. There's no traffic heading down to Santa Clara. So in that scenario, when it's just wide open, I'll Blue Cruise down in that scenario. If we're going down somewhere in the Central Valley or heading up to Sacramento, I'll Blue Cruise it. If we're going down to LA, those times I'd Blue Cruise it. So if it canceled, I would likely, unless there was a really good deal, I would likely not renew it, and I would simply do it if we were doing the family road trips for the $50 a month. It would just make more sense.
So do you think if it was FSD like and it was the 50, that would make a difference?
Yeah, and so it's interesting because we have the Model Y and we had the FSD trial when we got that, and I personally loved it. Like I used it because I just wanted to test the heck out of it, and I used it for almost a week, just everywhere I could go, and I loved it. My wife doesn't care for it at all.
Neither mine.
Yeah,
we had the Cybertruck for a couple of days, and she hated it. It made her more nervous and more stressed out than just driving the truck. And even though it was a different vehicle, she just made her nervous.
My wife feels the exact same way. Has really just no interest in it. It's didn't really add anything to the experience. So that's one of those things where for me, I found it to be much more smooth than Blue Cruise on the highway. But for my wife, just driving around town, it was still too aggressive in terms of its acceleration. And I would agree with FSD too. Like it uses the brakes, and I don't know why. Like there's no reason for FSD. It should just be letting off the accelerator and letting regen braking. It's even when you put it on chill mode, not even on hurry, even on chill mode, it is still way too aggressive. There's a new setting, sloth, that I have not tried. It came out when they did the what's the other mode? The opposite of that. There's sloth and
Mad Max.
They just released a new one.
Yeah.
They just released that new one that's crazy.
So
which I'm surprised. I'm honestly, I'm very surprised that they released that because it'll go like 15 over one. I've seen crazy clips.
Yeah, leave it to Tesla. Tesla, the habitual line steppers, habitually trying to like antagonize the government and people. Yeah,
with an open investigation right now too. That's kind of what's I'm like, dang, you guys,
just,
all right.
Talk about giving no anythings,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, that's the reason I was asking you two about Blue Cruise is we were talking about yearly renewal. Let's say it's $500 a year. Okay. And it doesn't work for us, a lot of us, on any of the 2-lane roads, if you will. I've never seen Blue Cruise work on a 2-lane road. I love it on over the highway interstate, like from here to Texas, or Jace, if I was headed your direction on, I-44 up to St. Louis. For sure. Love Blue Cruise, especially the lane change assist and stuff. But a friend of mine, Jason, I don't know if he's listening, but got comma and put it in his Lightning, kind of like Brandon Flash. And I asked him, so tell me about it. And he's like, it works on a lot more roads and it shows up as hands-free on the dash. And I didn't realize that comma engaged like Blue Cruise. It shows hands-free. And I'm like, well, so I made
like essentially like usurps your ADAS. It literally like it's a hacker, if you will, not in a bad, but it hacks right in, and it almost tricks the truck, which is good and bad. Rivian's seen some issues with that. Even Brandon Flash has seen some 12-volt issues with his comma. We've seen the data from it.
Yeah, you'll have some of that
stuff going on. But
you've kind of,
I mean, if you're a tech person and you like that is like full self-driving is important to you, or autonomy, whatever you want to call it, comma is an awesome option. If you want that,
I like the hands-free approach. I hate lane assist where I have to keep my hand on the wheel, other than that trick that we do to hang things off steering wheels, which is crap. I don't really honestly do that anymore because it's it's dangerous and it's such a pain in the butt. So with the older Teslas, the autopilot, you could do that. And I did that for 4,600 miles and that car was awesome. Now I'm still driving. My hands are right there. But the Tesla just seemed, the autopilot in the older Teslas was about the same as Blue Cruise is now. But I love Blue Cruise, but I wouldn't resubscribe to it because it's, like I said, we're an hour from the closest road. My roads I drive are not.
That's the biggest issue for Blue Cruise for me, that I know in our experience, right? Just because we are close to Detroit, we have a lot of roads that are covered. It's like 99, when I drive to Houghton Lake, the road trip that we do for my parents, it's 94% Blue Cruise. And the 4% is not highway. It's just the off-road to, get there.
Yeah.
So it's completely covered. But I know there's so many people like you, Martin, and like Matt Lynn in Texas, and so many people that I have heard from that are like, I have to drive half hour, 45, like you said, an hour, some people even longer to get to a Blue Cruise. And it's like, that's where comma would come in.
And
it's I think what's more unfortunate is, unlike GM, we haven't really had any updates from Ford about Blue Cruise.
The Super Cruise is a lot more roads.
Yeah, and they update you on that, and they say, "Hey, we added these roads. We had it." That is one place with GM that they've really actually done quite well. With their communication, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen the same from Ford. We seem to see an effort put forth for updating cars, which is good, because I will say Chevy is not doing, or GM is not doing that half of it, but they're not, updating their cars via OTA. They're making people go to the dealer for big, large ADAS updates and that sort of thing.
There's some of them. Now, the big update that the 24 to 25s have been getting lately, that's about a 50-50 mix of guys having to go to the dealer and not. I talked to a guy in town who just bought a new extended range Denali, and his didn't have the turn signal, so he hadn't got it. They're not giving him the update. He's going to have to go back.
I heard the other day it was actually pulled. That update was pulled from the Chevy dealers, or GMC, in all of them, because they were bricking some vehicles. So, which we've seen with Ford previously too. So it's like, I almost feel like when you add the dealer, you almost add an additional complication, even though it should be better because it's like hardwired right in, but it just doesn't seem to be the case. But
I certainly can feel that. I've having updated, over 50 hours of Lightnings with FDRS. It can easily brick a truck. It's not for the faint of heart. If you're a tech guy and you kind of know what you're doing, then sure, grab you a Mongoose cable and go for it. But otherwise, the 12 volts are so finicky anyway. I know Jason and I had this conversation online about doing one or not doing one. We talked about the LED light, doing it. Any of these aftermarket any of these things are obviously going to create complications that Ford engineers didn't put into the truck and think through. So you're kind of taking your own thing in your own hands when you modify the truck. I get about a message a week about somebody asking about the 12 volt and what's going on and what do I need to do. And it's always, it's low. Get an OBD2 scanner and check state of health, state of charge. Either replace your 12 volt. They're not expensive. And, shout out to Chris sending me one that he had left. That was awesome.
I had that spare from the 22.
And I got that thing here and plugged it into on my Ansel battery tester. It was 96%. Like, it's almost full. You must have kept it on a charger there.
Yeah, I was just sitting in my garage, and then when I would do a road trip, I would throw it in the front of the Lightning just in case.
I do the same.
And
just there's so many 12 volt issues. I don't know why, but there was a guy on there yesterday, I think it was, that was talking about he had put a new OMU in there, and I like OMU company. I think they make a good product. Mm-hmm. The problem with it is the charging curve in the onboard charger is not set up to charge lithium. It's set up to charge an AGM. And if you know that world, like the Polaris Ranger the EV side by side, or any of the golf carts, when you change out from lead acid to lithium, you got to change the charger or send off your charger to get reprogrammed for that curve, because they don't charge at the same voltages. It's made different. So I want to see somebody reprogram the curve of the onboard charger of the Lightning, and then I'm all in on a lithium 12 volt, because it's going to have a better curve. It's going to last longer. It's not going to get killed as bad by updates or leaving something on like an OBD2. I had myself in my 22. I'm running a T. I've got 2 OBD2s running all the time now at once. And I got a special case because we're running EverDrive and we're doing all this stuff for generator testing. But I got the system saver, battery message about 2 weeks ago. So I unplugged it. I let the truck run for about 3 hours at work. I've not gotten it again.
Yeah. Now I've heard people swear by those batteries, both in the Tesla groups and in the Ford groups, and I've heard other people say that they cause problems. OBD2 ports, I've heard that they shut them, that when you turn off the truck, they shut off. And then I've heard other people say that they will drain the battery.
The blue light stays on the V-peak when you turn off the truck.
Really? So it still is active.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's communicating, but the power is still there. So it's that little LED.
To be truthful, it depends on the OBD. There's some that are a little more advanced that are better, more secure as well, because they're more advanced, and there's some that are cheaper that aren't. But overall, I'd be shocked to see many people run into issues with OBDs, and draining the battery. Really, I've seen a lot of comma. And they actually show, Brandon Flash posted the data on that on Twitter. It was so interesting to see truly how much the comma impacted the 12 volt. It was surprising.
It has a pretty good drain on it. I think what we need to see is somebody adapt a bigger AGM with the similar charging curve, so we can put a little bit bigger battery in. For us users who are putting aftermarket things in your truck. Our EverDrive module that we put in ours goes dead when you shut off the truck, so we don't have to worry about that for this specific reason, because we know the 12 volts are they're undersized. It's like 500 or 600 amps cranking amps. It's a tiny little battery.
Look at Rivian put 2 in. There were Gen 1s because they were so worried about 12 volts. I mean, that, and then they put 1 in the Gen 2, and stupid, thing to hold it down got all messed up.
And Rivian, you can't change it out yourself. You have to take it in order to change it. If
it's under the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And they said that you have to have a special diagnostic tool to clear all the codes to then get the vehicle back into a ready to start position.
Which after is such a bizarre, you know what I mean? Like what a bizarre thing. Can you imagine, like, your battery dies, you can't just call AAA, and maybe AAA has a reset too. I don't know.
The state of health monitoring that it does and the history that it knows, you're basically resetting all that. There's actually the same thing in FDRS for Ford. We just don't do it. So you reset the BMS by flashing the headlights and pumping the brakes. We went through that before. It's the same thing, but Ford gives you the opportunity to do that. Now, Tesla, you can reset it around the screen. Like, you can put a new one in and reset it around the screen.
Wasim did say that it's coming. They're working on the diagnostic tool. It is like, people will have a service mode. It is going to come. But yeah, people are kind of like, I mean, shouldn't that kind of be a priority? You've got, especially when you've got R2 coming, you've got, people that will need access to this diagnostic tool, especially when you make a service appointment and it's 3 months, wait time. It's not a sustainable thing.
And until then, you definitely shouldn't be charging people. Like, I don't know. You kind of need to eat that one. If you've made it so that you can't do it yourself for a simple battery swap. I mean, even I can change my own battery. So
somebody who said it was somebody, Joe Rosenthal or somebody big, said that Rivian wanted 700.
It was a crazy number.
$700 some dollars to come and replace the 12 volt.
I bet you if you have insane. Ford come do yours out of warranty, the battery's going to be 150 and then probably 150 for the service call.
But that's not 700.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
but it's still a lot.
But it is. No doubt. But Rivian, I was blown away that set.
Rivian may be using lithium though. So
well, I think his was a Gen 1, so he technically had the 2 batteries, so they replaced 2, not 1. Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
Question about the Equinox EV or any of really, I mean, the Chevys are all kind of crossing with each other, but have we heard anything about Chevy batteries? They're 12 volts.
Not Equinox.
Which I think is the same as the Prologue. Is that right?
Prologue?
I haven't heard any 12 volt issues with those.
They haven't been around long enough. Like with ours, it kind of took to the 3-year mark until we started seeing a lot of lightning start to have weird,
mine was 40,000 miles. 40,000 miles. I had 12 volt issues. And it's crazy because early on, when it happens, you get to stop safely now. It freaks everybody out immediately. Everybody who knows anything on the forums is like, oh, I got a module bad. 90% of those issues are 12 volt related. If you lose voltage under 12 volts,
or the shifter.
yeah, exactly. The shifter can do the same thing. Anyway, I think Teslas have the same problem though. If a Tesla is under 13 volts, it freaks the car out. Like it's not good.
I like I've always thought that too, that we should have we should be able to put a bigger AGM battery in it.
Or give us a lithium option programming or something, because the lithium batteries you can buy for $300 an awesome lithium battery. And I know it's like $450 for the OMU, but there's a lot of the Chinese ones that have their own BMS built in that would actually work if we could charge them appropriately.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Chris, I have seen people too say that they've used it for 2 years and they've had no issues. But would I do it in the current state, like Martin, I think agrees? No.
Right. I saw Nikki have hers in and it fried it. And there's just a lot of, I'll be curious to see this guy who just put in his, see how long he goes before he actually has a problem, because it's never going to get that lithium full is the charge is at a lower voltage and it's never going to be truly full.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard to answer the other question though too. I don't know if he was meaning 12 volt specifically or high voltage batteries too on the Equinox, but I have not heard any issues on high voltage batteries for Equinox either, and they've sold a ton of them. Nothing like the Silverado or anything like that.
But Pat has had some experience with the Chevy stuff, and he said there's been a few high voltage ones, but it's not crazy.
Yeah.
No more than it's like anything else. You go searching online, you're going to find the bad stuff.
Yeah.
But no more
and
than
think about statistically, it's less likely to have an issue because it has way less cells than a Silverado. I mean, think about how many cells that Silverado has. It has much more of an opportunity for one of those things to go bad.
Right.
Matt saying he's on his original 12 volt, 50,000 miles, 2.5 years.
Yeah, it's time.
Zach's comment. He's got 125,000 miles on that Lightning, and it's the original 12 volt. It's a 22.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is weird though. It is weird how personal experience scars you, because if I got to, just because again, my past experience when Ben in Colorado Westby was having his problems, my immediate thought was you're in the cold. You've had it for
recently cold spell too. Like you just had,
I'm thinking, you probably have a 12 volt, and I think that he actually has had it diagnosed now. And I think he does have a module that they're going to replace.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They did replace a 12 volt. They got it back to him, and then it had another weird gremlin again. And I think they did finally track it down to a module. So these weird little electronic, gremlins, man, they're so hard to track down. Sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they're not. Overall, man, I got to say, going back to probably 2 years ago, I owe GM an apology, man. Those guys have, I think these things come in waves. I think there was a point where I just thought GM wasn't getting it, and they weren't, you know, they weren't going to be a player in the game, and now they've really expanded. They've got a full lineup.
But here's the problem, Chris.
Is it going to stick around?
GMC. So I was talking to Pat about this last week because he's put a lot of miles on a GMC, and he had a 4WT and an LT now. He's got a friend who has that one. They don't allow you to replace modules in the GMC right now.
Whole pack. Yeah, I've heard that.
Or
Silverado, both, right? Correct.
Right. Either one, a GM product or the fuse. So if you get in a wreck and the high voltage fuse is popped, they're not servicing it. Now I'm sure I could pop it open and find where that's serviced. They're not having it special made. They're buying it from somebody. But that's a little bit scary, as if you have a battery that goes bad and they have to just replace the whole thing. They're not throwing it away. They're serviceable inside that pack. They just have to be able to do it, like Tesla modules. You know, there's 16 in some, 14 in some. You can replace those, but that brings up a good point. Paul at TestX and I were talking last week about being able to change modules. So if you take your truck to 50, 60, 80, even a Tesla, 50, 60, 80,000 miles, and then you throw a new module in with it, the calculated amp capacity of that new module is completely different than the ones that were in there. They have degradation. So when you try to get a new one to live happily with the old ones, even one from one car to the next, I don't know how Ford's getting away with this. We haven't had enough experience out there. We're only 3 years in. There's going to start being some issues with replacing modules that are new with a different calculated amp capacity than what they had when they were, 50, 70,000 miles ago. And they're just not going to live well. If you do that to a Tesla, it might last 6 months, it might last a year, and then it's going to go out again. The cells get imbalanced between the modules, and then they get so far imbalanced where the car just throws a code. And I think we're going to see that in Lightnings as we just replace modules. So while I think it's good that we can replace modules, it can also be a detriment because you're mixing and matching old batteries with new batteries.
Do you not believe whatever their process is? So I know when they replaced my module on my original 22, they had some process where they went through some computer software thing and they were supposed to be rebalancing them. I suppose you would have seen or know.
That is a good point. And yes, they do rebalance them. So the current voltage they're at, but look at it like this. You have a cup that holds 12 ounces of fluid. And over time, the bottom of that cup gets filled up with junk. So then it only holds 9 or 10 ounces of fluid. Then you put a new one with it. The total ramp rate is not going to go up and down the same because you have less capacity. It's the amp hour capacity of that battery. The resistance creates capacity. Technical here. So then the resistance of the battery is a little higher or a little lower with one cell to the next. And that's where you get, like, if you ever go in and look at ours with FDRS, you can see the voltage, and those voltages are not going to be the same. Even in Car Scanner, for the guys who have a scanner and stuff, you can see the module voltage variation. And when those get too far out, the truck will shut down. And that's where the guys say, oh, I had to put a module in. Well, it's the voltages got too far out. There was something going wrong on one of those cells, like Jace's sign just did, and happened to create this high resistance, and the truck catches it, and which is good, and shuts it off. But
that thing didn't shut off,
right? There's no BMS there.
We need a.
I know we're getting off in the weeds. That's going to be an interesting long-term thing to see what happens. Because
they sent Sergio, but we got the update from Sergio, and it took a month, and they did finally send it. And it was an entire battery, and it was, it was like 5,000 pounds. It was insane. The box, he took a picture of the wooden crate that they sent it in, and it's out of this world. So yeah, it's all fascinating. And what are they doing with those batteries? Are they repurposing them to put them back in people's cars? They have to be, obviously, somehow, but.
Well, a lot of them are starting to hit eBay. I'm starting to see modules and batteries on eBay. I've seen a couple modules. I had a guy, I haven't got a chance to get back with him because of my surgery. Everything's been nuts. He's got a friend, I think it's overseas, like Norway or Europe or something, where they had a module that the guy's looking for, but he can't source one. So he's asking me if I had found some, and I've been looking, but I haven't seen any recently. There's several Lightning packs on eBay for like $5, $6, $7 grand. Like they're getting to be affordable now. So
there was a friend of mine bought an LFP pack. I think it was LFP out of a Mach-E on Marketplace, or I think he paid 22. But it was great.
And at that rate, now you're in the. Of course, they're used. Now you're in a deal where it's like, you know, you can actually afford to run 150,000 miles in Mach-E and throw another one in it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way Tesla is. My daughter's 22 Model 3 has 140,000 roughly miles on it. It's got, 20%, 22% degradation. It's normal for the year in the miles. We talked about just throwing a 50,000 mile battery back in it for $4,000, $5,000 and keeping on going. But yeah. So yeah, good point. Yes, you can balance the pack to get the voltages the same. There are balancers, battery analyzers that will balance them, but that's completely separate from the calculated amp capacity, how much total they have.
Yeah, and hopefully he's talking about, Gruber, who has done a great job of keeping those original Roadsters alive, and they do a lot of different maintenance things. When Bearded Tesla smacked during his FSD experiment and smacked a part, Gruber
are they going to redo that test? I was like,
they ended up completing it.
Did they? Okay, okay.
They kind of they had Tesla replace the battery pack and the stuff that was covered under warranty, and then they went by Gruber and the shop down there and had them replace a bracket that wasn't covered under warranty, and they did a little kind of cameo appearance there of that shop. And so I think then they completed that journey a little bit, but with a little bit more caution. And there were a couple other,
let's hit it and see what happens.
Yeah. There were a couple examples of some road debris that they made sure. And I think in one occasion it went around a tire, and in another occasion there was a thing that it didn't detect. So it's interesting what it's still learning to see and not see. But yeah, I mean, Gruber's got that whole shop down there in Arizona. I think it is that. Is it Arizona, New Mexico? I think it's Arizona.
I was thinking Texas. I know Paul knows him really well. I need to have him on sometime to start going through some of this battery tech, because he's the guy. He's doing 100 packs. He's pulling modules apart. He's pulling bricks apart. When I was at his shop, he had a whole bunch of the little cells. He said those are great for those Harbor Freight flashlights. If your Harbor Freight little flashlight goes out, those will fit perfect. Yeah, he's breaking them apart. He's doing that, but you can't really rebuild those with that phenolic glue that they're putting back in. But down to the module, it's all about, and I don't want to harp on this, but it's all about the calculated amp capacity, what's left in the battery, and they have to be close to live with each other very long.
And Zach just talking about third-party salvage, that is something that, hopefully as these things become a greater in the marketplace and get out there, because there are a ton of vehicles out there in wrecking yards, and at some point we've got to be able to get a system in the right kind of salvage yards where we can swap these batteries safely, and the price has got to come down on these things, because one of the arguments that's still out there is somebody that can go out and buy a $1,500 Corolla and rebuild these things fairly well, and battery packs still remain one of those obstacles where unless you can go out and just get yourself a very affordable battery pack and swap it out, it's going to remain a problem, and shops need to be able to do it outside
we haven't seen any aftermarket. There's not any of these Chinese knockoff, Lightning batteries or Model 3 batteries yet. It's still within the Tesla realm. There are people who are rebuilding them, but it's still a Tesla. But you don't see that much yet.
Yeah, there's the LFP, that's another, that's another whole different, like the voltage range is so tiny on an LFP. Does that make it easier to balance them?
Because it does. I mean, LFP is just that chemistry is more stable. When you form those dendrites inside like a regular lithium ion battery, it creates that resistance, and it creates the amp capacity to go down. When they start coming out, you guys probably read with the new battery tech that's coming. It's so moving so fast. Like the sodium, I know one of the CATL had a battery that had the coolant in it that didn't form dendrites, so you basically would have zero degradation, other than just normal use. It's not going to have degradation from the dendrite formations inside those battery market.
I mean, I'm excited that Ford partnered with CATL, because they are one of those people that, their LFP stuff is solid. They are constantly evolving and engineering things. And so to have that partnership, I think is a really big deal for them. I think the sooner we can get away from the NCM stuff, the better. So NMC, sorry, I'm mixing up my letters.
Yeah, I think it was a good starting point, though, Chris. I mean, we had to start somewhere,
sure.
and that's a good material for a battery. But it's going to feel old school, like like a old school incandescent light bulb is, and nobody has those now. It's all LED. So
and money.
Money.
That's the big piece that LFP will hopefully help solve for Ford, especially if we can domestically produce that, which
correct,
we are going to, but there's some hurdles as we've seen, particularly for Ford at the Marshall plant. So hopefully they can work through those things. I saw the other day that the state of Michigan was taking it back to the docket again. And I mean, this plant is 95% built, and they're still fighting it. So it's going to be interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Should we talk about recalls?
Yeah.
I think Martin, you were mentioning timing was interesting because you just had was it the red truck or was it a different one?
In fact, the red one started flashing the reverse lights a couple nights ago. I've noticed condensation in it ever so slightly when I bought it, and if you're not in a wet environment, it'll stay like that for a while and not cause problems. So the rear light bar is what we're talking about on the upper spec trucks, Lariat and up. I don't think the Flash has it, if I'm correct, Jace.
Yes, no, that's correct. Flash does not have the rear.
Yeah, so Lariat and Platinums have the rear light bar, and as cool as it is, it's kind of been a pain for Ford. They've had a couple of rounds now. This recall just came out today, I think it was, or maybe yesterday.
Yesterday, but
yeah. For these, I've had several replaced myself. In the trucks that we've had in the shop, they early on said there was micro fractures in the plastic. They didn't come out and say exactly where and what and when, but they've got a recall again, and now they're saying it had to do with the installation. So like the torquing of the screws on the backside where it goes through the tailgate, and you can get fracturing there, which lets water ingress and then eventually degrades the LEDs, causes them to fault out. And in a lot of cases, guys have had to replace those out of pocket. So I'm hoping Ford helps those folks out with a retroactive, repair or give them credit or something. But mine started it like a week ago. Just a couple, maybe 3 or 4 days ago. I noticed it at night. It was flashing because that reverse light on the middle of the tailgate is bright. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to start looking into this. So I'm going to actually probably still continue because there's a lot of light bars out there that are not failed, but they're wet. And
it really seems to depend on if it gets into that harness or not. And I've seen some people that had corrosion in that, and that had to be replaced. And that's a whole nother can of beans. I know. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ford does. So
right now they're just headlights, right? Like for years in cars.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. I've seen it in the rear taillight on the Lightning too. Yeah. It's a thing.
I had an early taillight replaced with the condensation that covered under warranty, and then I had the bar that was covered under warranty.
So there is a one-way vent in those to allow it to expand and contract and stuff. But I was doing some research this week about how to repair just standard headlights, and that same theory is going to apply to this light bar. So I'm going to actually create a place to air pressure check this at low pressure and do a soapy water test to find out where the leak is coming from, and then see if we can go about applying a sealant or a coating to seal that back up. I've got one of them at the shop out of the other 22 I had, and then we've got, because the dealer let me keep it. He said that we have 30 days. If they don't ask for us back, we toss it. And I said, well, if you're going to toss mine, can I keep it? They allowed me to do that. And then I have the one on my truck. Doesn't sound like that it's going to have a fix though until Q1 next year.
And so it's just an inspection right now. So you're just getting an inspection.
Can we pop off the panel on the back and unplug it without causing issues? I haven't tried that because you don't really need it other than the backup light. It might disable the camera. I don't know if that's one harness or two in there. I can't remember. So I'll do some research on that and give a feedback online.
And my guess is that we're going to start to find out more details because now every dealer is going to inspect the exact area, we're assuming, where it could have been damaged or allow that water to come in. So it's, I think we're going to start to find out exactly what the issue was. was it installation? Was it a mix of, install and parts? But as we saw today, the part number remains the same. There's no change to that. So it's adding up like it was an installation / factory install issue as well. So
those 6mm studs that stick through and the tiny little screws, if you over torque those, that can certainly twist or fracture that plastic. The ones that I've put together, I've been a little careful with how tight. So the second one that I did myself, we didn't have any problems. The truck's still running and no problem. So we'll see. I did that on the truck Josh has. That I installed that. So we'll see if Josh's gets any water in his coming up.
And even our 222s, we had one that had water and we had one that never did have water. We got them both recalled, but after they were recalled, we had them for another year and a half-ish, a little less maybe, and no issues again. So, and you see I've seen some people that are on their fourth. So it's going to be really interesting to see
what the environment is. Like we've had a lot of rain in Kansas the last 2 weeks, and I think that's why I'm seeing a lot of moisture in it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I think there's a certain part where it just can't recover. It maybe sometimes dries out if it gets just a little bit. And then I think sometimes it gets a lot of it, and it's once it's in there and leaking and dripping and stuff, it's
oh yeah. If it touches those pins on those LEDs, it's game over.
Yeah. So this is one of those things where I wish Ford was more transparent. This kind of stuff with software updates. I just wish they were just very open and transparent with things so that everybody can understand what was going on. Why do certain people have certain software and other people don't? Why do certain people have certain blue crews, certain people don't? Why do certain light bars have problems, certain people don't? But, working for a giant corporation that's also worldwide like I do, I have these same conversations with my 9 to 5, and they never are transparent. And, they'll say that if you're transparent, for every person that is legitimately impacted, there are 10 that will have the ripple panic effect that are not legitimately, and the amount of resources and time and people that have to deal with those people that aren't impacted, that aren't even related to the issue, and will have to start.
It's that effect too, Chris. I mean, it happens. There's no secret. I work for John Deere, and so a lot of that stuff is supplier quality issues. Some of it is manufacturing assembly. Some of it, where the bookends are when something goes wrong. Some of them you don't, and you have to cover such a wide variety. A lot of people in the middle didn't get affected. If it's actually an assembly issue, like at the plant, if they had the torque gun set too high when they at Ford, for instance, when they were putting those in initially, maybe that cracked all of them. And so when the dealers didn't reinstall them appropriately, we don't know. We're guessing right now, but
I'm thinking why exactly we're guessing right now is exactly why it took so long. Like, let's say this was a part issue from the supplier. It was cracked. We would have seen this transparently taken care of a long time ago. I truly do believe that, at least more transparent than it is right now. But I think it is part of this back and forth because it was an installation issue. That's what we're kind of, at least getting at now is I think it took a while because they were figuring out what caused it, what caused the crack, why did it happen to some and not to others. And now we're finally at, to the head of it, hopefully.
It makes the most
XLT Pro and Flash guys are sitting over here going, I don't have this problem.
Yeah, they're like, what? I don't understand.
It makes the most logical sense, but yeah, hey, if you don't want the light bar problem, get the Flash, the XLT, the STX that's coming up. If you don't want the leaking sunroof, moonroof, whatever, right? What is the difference between a sunroof and a moonroof? How do you know the difference? Is there
nowadays I don't think there used to be, I think, like some weird difference that they said, but I like Ford actually calls it the Vista roof. So there's all sorts of there's all sorts of names.
The same stuff.
The hose, I've heard the hose can be too long. The hose can get clogged. The different this and that.
I have seen those firsthand, and on the F-150s to F-350s, all the way to the back, there's a kink in that rear line from the factory. It like points up and kinks the line. So if you just go in there and just pull it back down, the rear is drained. Of course, this is controversial, but you guys know I've talked about this and I've videoed it. Every glass roof on every F-150, F-250, including the Lightning's made, if you run through a car wash and hold your phone up at that crack, you're going to see water draining in. That's how it's designed.
Blew me away.
When you literally made to leak.
I think you told me that when I was at your house and we
went
through
no
the
way.
car wash. I said, no way. And I'm literally in the car wash and I have my phone out. And I'm like, God dang it. That is the
You can sometimes hear it. If you're like, if it's just the right like volume and stuff, you can hear it just drip, drip, drip.
So everybody listening, if you have a sunroof on a Lightning and you don't believe me, take it through an automatic car wash, get a flashlight where the top glass rear meets the front over at the side, and you'll see it draining in. But that's how it's designed. There's a track and tubes on either end. It's designed to drain out of the truck. You can't put enough pressure more than a car wash in nature's environment, in the rain, to get it to leak enough where it would actually be a problem. The issue is if the track is not sealed properly or those tubes get dirt clogged up in them, then they'll leak. And that's not just Lightning. That's every F-150 to F-550 made.
I tell people, like, and you see it on other forums and stuff too, if you're particularly susceptible if you park under a tree and you're and it's a rainy environment, that debris will eventually get stuck in.
So you can actually see those drain tubes. If you open your door about a foot up from the bottom of your door, between the door and the fender, there's a little tube that comes out of the side of the cab of the truck. If you'll put a Harbor Freight air nozzle in there and just blow it, it'll blow the stuff out of that tube if yours is leaking. Now, if you do that and it's too much, you could actually disconnect the tube from the thing, and then you got to take it to dealer and get them to reconnect it. So don't just hammer it, but lightly just give it a little air pressure, and you'll see it kind of draining out. This happens with all drain systems. So air conditioners are the same way. Your AC is designed to drip the fluid, the condensation out on the ground. I had one here tonight. Guy had an FJ Cruiser at the shop, and it was all over his floor of his truck, and he couldn't figure it out. Well, I grabbed the air nozzle, and I just grabbed his little tube coming out of the firewall and put a little bit of air pressure in it, and lo and behold, like a gallon of water came out of that truck. It's because those drains get clogged. We don't have clean environments. I mean, you might have guys who have never had this happen, but if you live in Seattle and you're parking under a tree, you're going to have it. I park under a walnut tree every night at home. I mean, it's just part of that situation.
Yep.
So we have a couple of comments. I thought we'd go ahead and scroll through while we have a minute, because some people maybe are new to the show. So I thought this was a good one. Have Martin and Jace kind of explain a little bit of what they do, their knowledge in EV repair. I mean, obviously, Martin, if you want to start off, because you've got the extensive background, you got the whole shop. For those that don't know, check out my playlist where I came across the country driving from Tennessee back to California in my Lightning. I stop at Martin's shop, and we do a whole tour of his shop, and it shows his lift and his whole like man cave setup and everything, man, his tools. It's a great stop off. So if you look at my videos, if you look at my Charging Across America playlist, one of the stops at Martin Rebuilds has a great peek inside of his shop. But well before EVs, man, you were working on F-150s. So if you want to speak to that, man.
That's what I was going to say. I don't want to make this, we could talk about this for 2 hours. I'll try to make it in 2 minutes, but I've been a gearhead my entire life. I grew up doing race cars similar to Jace, building. I was pulling spark plugs out of a Suzuki 50 when I was like 5 years old, making the thing run. I mean, so I'm a gearhead car person by nature, and started rebuilding wrecked cars at 14 and have been doing it ever. So it's 30 years, I've been doing this. And then the Lightning came along, and I thought, I'm going to do an electric pickup. And all my buddies that are my tight, rebuilder group thought I was crazy to get into electric, because it's just, there's no market. We don't know this. And I lost 20 grand on my first one wrecked, like everybody did who bought 22 Lightnings. So I started Martin Rebuilds. It's been like 2 years ago now. And mostly I wanted to create a YouTube channel to show what the electric truck was about, and that you can be a regular guy who's been a diesel gas enthusiast your whole life and not be scared of electric, because it's not, the F-150 is not any different. It just has, a little bit, there's a battery instead of an engine. So there's voltage going to motors instead of pistons turning a transmission, turning your rear end. I mean, it is different, but it's, at the end of the day, electricity is not new. In fact, it's been around longer than gasoline. Electric motors have been around longer than piston engines, to an extent. Now, I'm not going to say extensively. So we have a lot more experience on highway gasoline motors than we do electric. But so I got into the Martin Rebuild stuff to build. I still build a lot of gas stuff. I finished a Ford Focus this weekend. So I still build a lot of gas stuff because it makes money, just like Ford. They're making money off the gas trucks. So, but I have a passion for the electric after driving my first one in January of 23, first time I drove one. And I knew right then I'm going to have one. And by March, I was one in the driveway. So I've gotten into doing a lot of EV repairs. So I do a lot of Teslas. I do the large drive unit, the coolant deletes. We'll do battery swaps on Teslas. Not as big as some of the big shops because I have a day job. I'm an engineer and I work at John Deere, and that's my day job. So that pays the bills and it takes care of things. But I do this because I like it, which makes it to where I'm picky about my work. I want to make sure that when something leaves my shop, it's right. And I don't want to see you back because of something I did. So that leads me into why I do Martin Rebuilds, why I'm big on the Facebook groups. I try to stay active on a lot of the EV groups. But obviously, I mean, the Lightning, that's the silhouette of the logo that's my favorite one right now. It's the nicest truck I've ever had by far. And with that, that's the reason why I started Martin Rebuilds. I mean, it's really built around the Lightning. So Jace, you can take over and tell us why you're in, but I think that might end up being a good segue to what we're going to talk about a little later about the future of the Lightning.
Yeah, you may be. Yeah. So yeah, similar to Martin, I kind of grew up around cars. I raced go-karts starting when I was 5, and quads and snowmobiles, and my dad drag raced snowmobiles for years, regular cars. He did it all and got me into it as well at a really young age. And then I kind of moved on to sprint cars and was really into it. NASCAR was kind of the goal, honestly, for a long time. And then unfortunately he passed away when I was 15, and that kind of changed everything. So I was a gearhead. I never imagined owning an EV, but I was a tech guy, at the same time. I've worked at the Apple store. I've worked for school districts fixing Chromebooks and, diving into that sort of side of tech. But it didn't really, I never put the 2 and 2 together, right? I drove an F-150 and I had some tech, I had my Apple Watch app. I remember that was the big thing at the time. I can use my Apple Watch app with my Ford F-150. But then the Mach-E came out, and I had a Focus ST at the time, and I was like, man, I really, I like the idea of an EV, it kind of puts everything together for me, the gearhead part, but the performance racing sort of stuff, but also the tech. And so I sort of started venturing into social media. I wasn't super into social media a lot. And I just started tweeting, and Mike Levine was kind of the one who picked up my tweets. And that's kind of how I got started with Ford. And I just started working with Ford very closely on posting content. And one thing led to another, and down the line, we had our Mach-E for the year, and then I went rogue for a hot second and bought a 2-door Bronco, and then we ended up with 2 Lightnings, and it's just I try to do it all within Ford world, but also EV world too. Just answering questions.
Bluetooth or Blue Cruise commercial out there where you're in somewhere.
Yes, yeah, there was allegedly maybe at one point. Yeah, no, there was, but yeah. So that's kind of what I do now. Is I just work with Ford very closely with content creation, and then sort of on my own social media stuff. Do tech. Lightly dabble in tech a little bit, especially on Threads, and then just kind of assist where I can in the Ford community and help people buy, answer questions, do all sorts of things. So
you're also like Chris and I, you have a day job too. I mean, you guys, we all
we do work in roofing, and we use our trucks, in roofing every day. That's huge for us. It's allowed us to, keep so much more, especially in Justin's truck. We keep all the roofing stuff that we used to keep in the back seat. Now it can go in the front because the bed's full of ladders, So yeah, I just, all around Ford Authority labeled me an EV expert the other day. So you know what, I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it.
Yeah. And look, you do Friends of Ford on Instagram. Yeah. You've traveled the world with Ford. Yes. So you've been like a Ford insider in many ways, and a real leader in the community. So it's always cool to get your insight and your perspective, because you've been around for a lot of it and you've known a lot of people in the community. And so it's always cool to kind of just get that perspective from you, man. So I love you.
I don't really dabble in repairs as much as Martin. I do my own a little bit here with Forescan and stuff. Very, very limited limited stuff, but my forte is more knowing about the vehicles and the trims and what comes, sort of like Tim Bart's. I love that aspect of that knowing what comes on a Mach-E in 2026 that's not going to come in 2025 or Lightning, and that to me is super, super, I don't know why, but super exciting. And
which is why it makes you a great piece to this group. Like, so I can tell you, how the brake system works and where the battery chemistry is. And then I'm like, Jace, did they put this on a 24? I don't remember.
Yeah. And you've also had experience with the hybrids and you got that.
Yeah, we did on the Power Boost. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun part. Like Martin too. I think, and Chris, probably you too. Like, I don't think any of us saw ourselves as all EV people 5 or 10 years ago.
I gotta tell you guys. I was telling Chris that earlier, Jace. Do you remember when the Lightning was announced? I was in the process of building a 2-door 4-wheel drive F-150 that I was going to Whipple supercharge and lower it and make a race truck out of. That was where I was headed and going to badge it the Lightning. And then they announced it, and I was pissed that they were going to make an electric to ruin the Lightning name. I mean, I was mad. I was like, I'm doing this now for sure because they're going to ruin the truck. And then I drove one, and it was over.
Yep.
It's
wild.
At that point, I was all in on EVs. I had a reservation on a Cybertruck at the time, and it was it was just delayed and whatever, and I was over waiting for it. But before that, I had been in a minivan for 7 years, and I was ready to get the heck out of that. And but before that, I was in an F-150 Lariat, and so I was itching to get back into a truck. And at the time, I literally, if you could see to my right, I've literally got the Hot Wheels Cybertruck, the $500 Cybertruck. I got a shrine to Cybertruck over here. And it's funny because
your seat you're sitting in is a Cybertruck seat.
This is a Cybertruck seat. Yeah. For those that don't know, this is literally a Cybertruck seat. People think, because I love the Lightning, they're like that I'm a Cybertruck hater, and I'm not. It's just I think
I'm with you,
the Lightning.
I'm with you, Chris. You were I were talking about this earlier. I would own a Cybertruck today, other than the cost.
Yeah, if they were on time and on budget and on spec, I would be in a Cybertruck. And it's but it turned out that here comes Jim Farley with this great Lightning, and I fell in love with the truck. And it's for my use case and for my budget and for my family, it turned out to be the better choice, and so good that I've now had it twice. So that wasn't on purpose, but. Yeah,
I'm
Jace,
I'm on my fourth one.
4 times, Jace. So
I'm on my fourth one, and we have a Mach-E too. So it's when we're an EV family, and I'm trying to get all of my daughters and kids into EVs, but certain times, it doesn't work for everybody. We've talked about this. My daughter's in a Mach-E in Florida where she has to public charge, and it's not free. It's not ready. So she's done with the EV lifestyle for a while. We're putting her in a gas Mustang, a 22 Mustang. And then she'll go back eventually. She's already said, when I get out and get my pilot's license, I want to have a Mach-E, like a performance. I'm like, sure, we'll build one.
Yep. Just to knock out some of these other questions, there was a bunch of questions about leases on here. I'll be honest, even though I leased a model,
there, Chris.
So on this one, leasing a Juniper, I would say the Juniper is an amazing Model Y. It's the best Model Y that I've ever seen made. I did a video on one. I thought it was spectacular. $449 a month certainly sounds great. I don't know what the down payment is on that.
I was about to say, we need more info on that. Yeah,
that's the tricky one. And I would say if you're someone that's going to get rid of a car after 2 or 3 years anyway, a lease
or the miles.
Certainly. Or what's the miles? What do you drive? All those kind of things matter.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. Don't some of the leases even have a cash payment at the end you have to do to get the payment down up front? Like you have a $3,000 at the end or something?
Yeah, some of them have a turnover fee or different kind of things, or some of them have a buyout. Some for a while, Tesla
have they
let you buy them.
Yeah, now they allow that though, correct?
Now they do.
Okay.
So you got to dig into the details on that. Find out what you're going to how much you're going to drive. Does it make sense for you? What's the down payment? And at the end, what's your style, right? Are you going to turn it in every 2 to 3 years anyway? Then that's probably going to make sense for you with depreciation being what it is. If you're the type, my wife's car we had for 13, 14 years. Like I said, the minivan before that, 7, 8 years.
You still have her car, don't you?
I do still have that car. I need to clean it up and sell it, to be honest with you. And
10K, 4K down payment. So
not
as good as the deal is.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. You got to watch that stuff. So I mean, it's all about, you got to start running the numbers. So I'd sit down on a spreadsheet and run those numbers and see what it looks like.
Just put it in a chat GPT and the rule of thumb on leasing is 1%. Yeah. So if it's 1% or lower, you're good. 1% or higher, not so good.
So Jason, it works for you guys. I mean, you leased yours, right?
I'm at 0.07 on my Lightning.
There you go.
It's just 0.07%. Justin's at 1.1 or 1.2, but yeah.
And then I was going to share this, when it comes to I did do a video on the lease. So anybody that hasn't seen it, go back onto Bow Family EV. There's 2 videos there. One of them goes through the whole delivery. And then as part of that, I go through the financial part of it, and I go through the website and how I found it and what the numbers looked like. And then I broke that part out separately for people that just wanted to see like how I found it on the website. Now, I don't know if they are still doing those deals. I don't know if they're still doing 0 down and if they're still doing all of those incentives and discounts. But what I will do is I'm going to share
personally,
this.
I would never put money down on a lease. That's just a personal. I would never put any money down on a lease. If you wreck that vehicle,
you wreck it, you're out.
You're out 4K right there. Just boom.
Yeah. And so like they don't have it going on the Cybertruck, Chris, because I've been checking in about every month. I figured with them not selling, they're gonna start doing something to move them. So I thought they
just sold them all to SpaceX.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that was one of my
thought if a good $400 deal popped up, then I might look at a Cybertruck lease, because then you can jump out of it in a couple years. I sent you guys that one from Northern Michigan. It was like $369 for a GMC EV Denali extended range it was like $999 down and $10K a year. And I was like, that's a good deal. And it's 2-year lease. I only wanted it for a couple years because eventually these GMC Denalis are going to get out there and they're going to get cheaper. So
Jacob, I don't know how well this is going to show up. If you have a big TV, feel free to blow this up on a TV, freeze frame it, capture it. Like, I don't care about showing this, man. This is literally my lease agreement. It'll show you all the details here. It was 0 down, sort of. So 0 down is in terms of the capitalization on the loan or the down payment on the lease agreement, right? Towards the cost of the vehicle, but you still have to pay some degree of taxes in the state of California based on your zip code. So your zip code is going to depend on what your taxes are. There's DMV fees. There are other things involved that you still do have to pay. So
that's on any car, though.
On any car, right. So you can see that.
But in Cali, it might be like a lot of money.
Yeah. So it depends on the zip code you're in. Depends on the state that you're in. Yeah. So this you can see all here, right? It's got your so there is like a capitalized cost reduction in here. There's the first monthly
zoom
payment.
That baby a little bit, Chris.
Yeah. Can I zoom in? Let me see
at
here.
The top, just zoom it in a little bit.
The only thing I'm trying to protect is my address. So, but yeah, is that, can you see that?
A little better.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody cares about this, but this is interesting stuff when you're talking about how to justify a lease versus a purchase. The depreciation hit on new cars is always big, and it seems to be a little bit bigger on EVs. Like the Lightnings, they're going to take about, I'd say, double the depreciation hit that you would if you went and bought a new gas power boost or F-150.
So there's things on here, right, that are, you got your first monthly payment they're going to want up front. So that's
unless they don't start up production again.
Yeah, used is going to go crazy.
Yeah.
So they'll say 0 down, but they do want your first monthly payment. You've got registration fees, you've got license fee, you've got sales tax, you've got tax on capitalization, you've got acquisition fee. Now that seems kind of like a bogus fee, $695 to acquire it.
That's like a doc fee.
Is that what that? Yeah. $35 for electric registration titling fee. That's a California thing, right?
So Chris, the big one there, the mover there that I'm seeing is the capitalized cost reduction. What is that $5,500 supposed to do? Did you have to pay that?
I did not pay that. No, I think that is what Tesla paid. So Tesla put that money in. I did not pay that. That was their kind of lease incentive, which I think might have been.
You still paid like $2,200 then.
I still did pay. I don't know what that amount was, but yeah, it was still something in the.
Which is mostly probably Cali stuff, really, truly, like
Yeah.
for the most, but other than the first monthly payment, it looks like.
Let me see if this gives me. There's a lease credit of 4,500 amount.
Yeah, there you go, 2733, what you paid in cash.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So there was so there's still, even though they say zero down, there's all these little fees and taxes and all this kind of stuff. It's 2 years worth of taxes up front and all this other kind of stuff, right? So that now there is an overcharge in here because I did get like a $560 check back from Tesla for overpayment. So somewhere in here they overcalculated something. But yeah.
Hey, so you got the acquisition feedback.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
Now I don't know how to get out of this window that I'm in. I've gotten myself into a window that I don't know how to. But yeah, for somebody that wanted to see it, I wanted to kind of show that and let somebody at least kind of see the snapshot of it. I think that's the easiest way. But then also, there we go. Now I got out of there. So Jacob, hopefully that helps you some. So yeah, if you do go onto their website and you can kind of see you can see there's a check box that you can press and it'll say include taxes and fees. So it will then show you the true cost of that. But that being said, once I put that money down, which you would, like you said, like Martin said, you're gonna have to do that on any car or lease or whatever. There was no like for $260 a month, that just seemed like a no-brainer to me, Yeah.
I'm with Jace. I think there's certain instances where leases will work. I don't typically do them, but if you're putting money down, like that $6,000 that Jacob's saying, to me, if you wreck it in a week, that's just gone. It's going to be difficult to recoup that.
Yeah,
you don't own the car.
And then Tim, I saw your comment there. 7,700 due at lease signing. No, it was like 2,700. And it turned out 500 of that was overpayment, so it was more like 22. It was like 2,200 was the taxes, the fees, the acquisition cost, and the first month's payment. All of that together was like 2,200. So not 7,700. And yeah, it was for MD. It was 10,000 miles a year. Not 4,000 down, 2,200 in my case, but that all depends. Mine was 60,000 miles on the vehicle. Mine was a 2020. If you got a newer one, if it had less miles, all of that would factor into it in terms of the value. So yeah, all of those kind of things it took me a while to find that too.
So speaking of value, what do we think the value of our trucks are going to do now that Ford has officially stopped Lightning production for a minute? We'll see how long that minute.
My Carvana estimate went up.
It's a curious.
More, actually, I just looked the other day. I got a alert that it had gone up, like $400. Not a lot, but I mean,
I've been seeing $30,000 to $40,000 Lariats still bringing 45 grand. Or 30 to 45,000 mile Lightnings. They're not dropping below 40. Brandon got his cheap. I've not seen any more of those. You can get the upper range, stuff. The upper mileage stuff brings a little less. I just sold one for 37,000. That's rebuilt title. It's just, and it's fully loaded, but it's a Martin Rebuilds truck, so it's special, right?
Yeah.
But no, they're and I have a white, that one I was talking about, the XLT. It's basically sold at 30 grand. It's a 10,000 mile 23.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to happen because there's a number of things in the market where, the incentive is going away. So that should, in theory, help the resale value because you're not getting, that initial hit where somebody goes and buys a vehicle where the MSRP is $70,000, but everybody knows you didn't really pay $70,000 for it. So right off the bat, if you go to sell it used, it's already $7,500 off of that.
And this is interesting too, Chris, in this price point. So we're talking in this $30,000 to $50,000 range of vehicles. But when you start talking about like the older EVs, like for specifically the Teslas, the used legacy Tesla market was already struggling but not too bad for sales because the tax credit. The tax credit was helping a lot of the people. Now that I wouldn't say it's gone. I mean, the tax credit's gone, but the sales have slowed down a lot, which is driving the prices. I'm seeing a little lower. Not lower than they were with the tax credit. So if you had a $20,000 Tesla you're trying to sell, it's probably worth 17 or 18 now instead of the 16 that they were selling at with the tax credit. So for instance, this I'll show the car that I just picked up. See if I can get the share right. This is the car that I just picked up out of Florida. So this is a 2013 with like 140 on it. This at the wrecked car auction. I mean, this is going to be a rebuilt title. It's got a little bender on the other side. This is like a $3,500 car. That's $80,000 MSRP, and that car's got a lot of life left in it.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this market start to recede a little bit, but I really think that these older, if you're trying to get into an EV, regardless of what you want, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can pick these cars up used for $10,000 to $15,000 with just a little over 100,000 miles on them. And these older Model S Teslas are free supercharging. The 12 to 16s, most of them are free supercharging. If they haven't been traded in and been stripped from Tesla, you can check if it's got SC01 codes, and they're 10 to 15 grand. So you can get into one of those. Your payment's going to be $200 or $300 a month if you borrow money on it. And the car should last 200 to 250, 300,000 in some cases on these miles. So if you're not looking at buying a high end, Chris, I don't know if your 2020 Model Y is probably a $25,000 to $27,000 car. Was that fair?
I think it was priced at 24.
There you go. So right around that, where these cars are half that. So if you're it depends on which price point you're looking for, what kind of tech you want, how new stuff you want, but just something to kind of, keep in mind as you're looking at used EVs, because even the older Priuses, the hybrids and stuff like that, those are actually holding their value pretty well.
Yeah. And I think, man, the EV market, just to kind of start going through, I just wanted to kind of share some of the stuff that I had noticed, just kind of going through the news, man, and kind of get your take on it. So gonna kind of start off with, we know that Dodge went and canceled their Ram Rev, and then they reused the Ram Rev, which was their Ram. So it's like very confusing. The Ram Rev was their Revolution, which was going to be their all battery electric. Then they canceled the Ram Rev, but said, Rev sounds cool, so we're going to use Ram Rev name for their E-Rev, which kind of makes sense.
Which should have probably been what it was to begin with.
Yeah, right. They had Ram Charger, which actually does make sense too, because you're charging in a Ram. That makes sense, but the Ram Charger name is gone. The Series Hybrid is now the Rev.
Yeah. Then there is.
I got that right, Chris?
Yeah. Then Chevy, who this one kind of hit close to home for me. They have canceled the BrightDrop, which I was really surprised about, because I've seen more and more BrightDrops. We at FedEx use a lot of BrightDrops out here in California, a bunch of them, and they do great for us on our deliveries. And and they're made in Canada, and just do a fantastic job in our environment. Now, I don't know how they are out there for Ohio, where it gets cold during the winter. I don't know how they are in places like New York.
Yeah, we don't. I've never seen a BrightDrop. Not on the road.
There's one here in our little town that's at the Chevy dealer. It's not sold, but I think they're like 100,000 retail, aren't they?
They have different battery sizes and different things. I mean, they're down in like you can get them down in the 70s and 80s. And then now the big thing in California, of course, is we have so many incentives. And the real secret sauce, and I don't think I'm saying anything confidential here, but with FedEx, and especially the way that we have our contractor model for places like Ground, a contractor falls into a small business category because they are their own independent contractor. So if they have a little, 1 to 5 vehicle fleet of these BrightDrops, there are so many great incentives that they can get that when you factor in the gas savings and the California incentives and the federal incentives. I mean, the vehicle is just a no-brainer. They can get it so cheap, cheaper than a gas vehicle. And then you get the maintenance, and then for, the downtime of taking a van offline and then having to go and rent like a Penske, while you've got to do your normal maintenance. It's just such a no-brainer out here in California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada. But I know for a big section of the country, that's not the case. So again, I've got that skewed perspective living where I do. So I just
we see the Rivian vans, but I think Amazon has the overhead and the gumption and logistics to be able to figure that out. But I've never seen a BrightDrop other than like at an auto show.
Well, there's interesting. I'm in the central southeast Kansas, and there's not an EV commercial anything anywhere close to me. There's some Teslas around and stuff for the residential, but not.
You don't have the Rivian vans either.
No, we're too far from bases for those guys to make that route, and the range wouldn't work.
Yeah. And then this one's interesting, which I know, Martin, and this has not been confirmed by Scout, by the way. This was an article where Scout reportedly, whatever reportedly means, is going to delay their BEV and just launch as a hybrid, talking about VW and their kind of struggles. But yeah, different rumors on the Scout boards and on this article that's been kind of widely circulated, but unconfirmed by Scout. But I know, for example, out here, we have a Scout area out right here by Unplugged Performance, where we've done a couple events in Fremont, and just different people kind of off the record that I've heard from have seemingly confirmed that, everything is leaning towards it's going to launch. When they look at their reservations, they are overwhelmingly EREV and not the battery, not the full battery electric.
They want to put gas in their truck and drive it, but get the effect of the power. I really believe we should have started here back in 22, got everybody used to the electric powertrain, and as battery tech come up, Chris, I think you've mentioned this before, then roll us into full BEV when the batteries are fast charging and we're not equivalent. If you dig a new Power Boost versus a new Lightning and drive it across the US, the average consumer right now doesn't want to stop for more than 5 or 6, maybe 10 minutes with their kids, and they want to keep moving.
I mean, this is the whole idea behind your generator project. The EverDrive.
Yeah, the EverDrive is for us is to go farther and not have to charge as long. That's exactly the point.
I am glad Ford got the data and other companies that they got the data on this, but I completely agree with you that I think in the end it would have made more sense, and we wouldn't have had billions in dollars of losses, right? So
and I think speaking of that, a couple other things that I just kind of pulled up to share, and we can kind of get your thoughts on it. Even you got companies like Rivian who are trying to gear up for R2, but they're laying off 600 workers for on their part. That's
the tax credit just left. Now most of their stuff is not tax credit worthy. I mean, I don't know that. Can you buy any new Rivians under 80?
No, but their lease, and this mentions it here too, right? 7,500 federal.
Yeah, I think you can find the base at like 6,770.
Okay,
so
there you go.
Not much less than that.
There's just been such a slew of just like disappointing news, right?
So with that said, though, Chris, all this disappointing news, like Chevy's laying off, Ford canceled the Lightning for a while when nobody knows when that's going to come back. With the fire that Ford had. Here's the
GM. Look at the GM one.
Right, 1,700 jobs.
That's huge. I mean, at least
that's at battery. That's battery jobs. That is not even. Some people were like, oh well, they'll use them elsewhere. Like, unfortunately, this is the battery itself. That's where all these jobs are being cut. This isn't like, oh, Helmer's not selling well. We'll cut some shifts from there. Sort of like Ford did with Lightning, right?
Yeah.
This is battery production reduction. Not good.
And that's going to ripple, right? If you're not making the batteries, that means the batteries aren't going into a thing, and if they're not going into a thing, that thing's not being made. So,
So I don't know. We kind of touched on that there a little bit ago, but with Ford and the Lightning, it could morph into they're going to pump up the Super Duty and pump up the F-150, And if from a business decision, if they're making more money on gas F-150s than they are on the Lightning, and they're selling more, why would you not? Especially when you have aluminum shortage from this fire, you've got to get it. And it's a business decision. I mean, I understand.
And Lightnings take more aluminum than ICE and hybrid. Those castings, the castings are a huge piece of it, in my opinion.
Bigger.
In the back,
they exist. Period. There's no casting in an ICE and hybrid, not like for the independent race, not like there is for Lightning.
The spindles, that's all aluminum. Front, but that's right. But, like we talked about the other day, I tried to swap those around. I had those messed up, but
but look how much aluminum is in those castings. It's a lot.
They weigh about 70 pounds. You can see in one of my videos where I put one in, and that thing is massive, which makes it a great truck for towing because of that casting and the way that suspension's set up. But you're right. That's expensive. And then all of the aluminum components, the inverters, all of that's aluminum.
Yep. And so they were honest. Like Ford said, hey, it takes way more aluminum to make these. We have to prioritize, and I'll comment on it. I mean, I don't think I'll get in too much trouble. I want to be careful with what I say. But I don't really know much more than the average Joe, but Lightning production is on hold. We know this. Okay. This is not new news. We know this is mostly due to the aluminum fire. Ford has paused production on Lightning before, specifically at this time. It's happened, I think, actually the last like 2 or 3 years. So this is also not really new territory as well. There's lots of inventory. Ford has already said that. There's plenty of inventory available. There's really no need to go rush. On top of all of that, right, we have the regulatory situation. So, the tax credits going away. We have, lax rules coming out for emissions potentially, and all the credits that go along with that. Those are also potentially going away. So there's like a lot of like things at work right now. Now, specifically for the Lightning, yes, it's on pause. I believe that there will be a 2026 run for the Lightning. That's just my personal opinion. I think Ford put way too much money towards creating the STX. That's already it's done. That's designed and built. I think they have way too many parts for the Lightning 2026 run that they will have to use. So it will make no sense for Ford not to use those parts. However, I think the 2026 run will happen. Is it then possible that perhaps maybe we would see the end of the Lightning? Maybe. Or
the end of the Lightning as it currently is. It's a little long in the tooth for an EV. I mean, 3 years, 4 years, maybe they're it's all speculation, but maybe they're
retooling. It is. And I agree with you. I just don't, I haven't heard anything or seen anything that would lead to that. From what I have heard, if any big changes come to the F-150 in general, whether it be Lightning, hybrid, whatever, it will not be until 2028 when the next gen is going to launch. A lot of people are like, where's, Ford digital experience? Where's, the bigger battery Lightning? Where's the Expedition version? We're not going to see that, guys. They're not going to do much more work for Gen 1.
They're streamlining it, though. I mean, they killed the 98 kilowatt, right? But Jace, it's all 120.
They did. Right? Yeah, it is killed. But if you look at the numbers, the losses have not decreased, if that makes sense. They've kind of stagnated. Last quarter, I believe, it was minus 100 or 1.2 billion. It's just not getting better. They're not profiting yet. And they said basically, I think it was 80 to 90% of that 1.2 billion was because of strictly from Gen 1 losses off the top.
Yeah, well, so much ROI has to happen. They had so much investment to build that truck. You have to make so many of those before you crack that threshold.
And remember, at one point, they said 150,000 a year.
Yeah,
that was their expectation.
Not that much in total, right?
I believe it's 90,000 total. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, 100,000 trucks isn't going to do it. And then that makes it seem like you had a huge loss. So, I still stand by the same reason why I can't talk a single friend of mine into a Lightning. I've talked my brother-in-law, but people around this area, its cost is driving factor number one for Cybertruck, all of them. Number two is the charge time. It really is. The people go on there. If you could go 300 miles, let's be realistic with each other. 300 miles is enough. That's 4 hours of driving if it was a 10-minute charge. So I think that's what kills people is really they don't give up their gas truck. They got to be able to tow, and especially the guys like me that are towing and cutting it to 150 miles when I tow. I tow an hour and a half, and then I'm stopping for 45 minutes. That Matt knows all about this. I mean, he's on here commenting. I mean, it's the towing part. That's why I'm creating EverDrive with Zach right now, is to try to get us where that tow range gets back up to 250.
And I think part of the issue that we're running into, and I know we've kind of discussed this before too, is and we just kind of briefly mentioned it with Cybertruck, right? Like, and FSD is a perfect example as well. We see things differently than the average bear, right? We drive an EV and we're like, this torque, the instant acceleration, these things matter to us, right? But like when you talk to my mom or your guys' wives, exactly. They're like, it doesn't make a difference in their day. For us, it does. It means something to us, even though we loved petrol and gas so much. We're gearheads, Martin, right? Like, but it doesn't translate the same for a lot of other people. It doesn't. Even people, too big of a jump.
Jace, even people that it should make sense for. You talked about your mom. That car that I showed a few minutes ago, that Model S, I could give that to my mom for $3,500 because I'm a nice guy,
Yeah.
With that being said, it doesn't matter how good it is. My parents are in their getting close to 70. They're not going to drive an EV just because they're used to their gas cars. My dad has a diesel pickup. They drive 150 miles from home ever anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is perfect for you guys. It's cheap. I can work on it for you. I mean, for them, they have the ultimate spot to be able to do that. And they don't have any interest at all. It's a lot of mindset that I'm not going to go down some new road that I don't understand. I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing.
And I was talking about this with somebody on Threads today too. I will say one thing that I love that Ford specifically has done is the Ford Power Promise. That I wish more manufacturers would focus on that aspect of ownership, because I mean, they installed as many chargers in homes as there are Tesla superchargers in like America in under a year. That's incredible. That is doing more for adoption than anything else. And I'm not just rah-rahing it because it's Ford. Like it was just, and I think it was born out of the need to get rid of chargers. I truly for Ford, like it was born out of like, we have so many chargers. What are we going to do with them? And not that like Ford doesn't want to help people. They do. They want to get people, it was to sell vehicles. But at the end of the day, I think it was born
that
out
of that's a great. And Chris, you can attest this too, like how many chargers you guys have in California. I mean, level 3 chargers or DC fast chargers, but that is still, they pulled the plug on that for a little bit, but now it's kind of released. So all of Kansas is getting chargers now. I think the infrastructure is continuing to grow.
Yeah. I tell you, thank God.
I was talking to Martin earlier, and I was like, man, dude, I was just telling him I was feeling I've been feeling kind of down, and having these thoughts, and it's kind of good to hear a couple of yourself kind of, and Mike the car geek actually is right there with me too, and I think I saw a comment here from Matt talking about the STX. Like, I'm going to kind of combine thoughts from Matt about the STX and from Mike the car geek. Where was that comment I saw here? Yeah, I'm gonna kind of go in order. Hold on here. Where is, man? There's so many comments. This is great. This is one of our better ones. So yeah, he's talking about the STX is why he's thinking the Lightning will have a 26 run. I do agree with that, and you had said that earlier, Jace. And then Mike, the car geek, where was that great one here? Ford's not really investing more in the Lightning and Mach-E, no NACS, focus on universal EV and EREV and PHEV. That I agree with that too, and I agree with what you said about the chargers. Like, if I could just mix all those together, and your thought about how they really did so much for EVs, and I think that's the mix of emotions I've been going through, because I think I was all in on Jim coming out here to California and telling the story of the road trip and bringing Tesla charging to the EV community. That was Ford that did that. That was Jim and his road trip that did that. That was Jim signing my truck that did that. That's, man, I felt like part of that story, you know what I mean? Because that happened here in California. Mm-hmm. he brought Tesla to the entire.
I came to California for that road trip too. Actually, right? I forgot.
That was such a moment. And then, he's talking about T3, and he's talking about the future, and he's talking about Ford is not going to make boring cars. And it's an enthusiast company. And I'm just, dude, I am all in on this. I am pumped. And I'm thinking, dude, it's going to be right there with Tesla. It's the number 2 EV maker, and I am in. And we're building this plant in Tennessee, right there where Josh and Jesse are, and we're building this battery plant, and I am just pumped. And I'm thinking GM doesn't get it, and I am drinking the Kool-Aid. And then I fast forward and I see what, to me, with the universal EV is a boring car. And I get it. It's going to be a mass market car, and it's going to do well. And I think we were talking about 3 shifts and 100,000 vehicles, and they bought these Ford Charge Station Pros for that, and then it didn't happen. So then we needed to get rid of these Ford Charge Station Pros. And I think they've just now hit about the number that they had built because they were giving them away. And now we've switched to the Emporia Charger. So that's kind of a sign that they've worked themselves through that inventory. And then, as horrible timing, I'm not trying to make a statement about anything, but as the winds would have it, now suddenly the environment has changed and the carb credit is gone. And we've talked before about a year ago about for every Lightning sold, 17 F-150s could be sold. Well, that doesn't matter anymore. So you don't need to hit certain numbers anymore. And now you're about to go into the winter season where Lightnings don't sell well because they don't charge and travel. We know this time of year is when we start to see anything that sells in the winter is, I'm only getting this much range, and I put my heat on, and you're right. Well, let's just avoid all those stories. Let's avoid all those selling during that season anyway, when it's not going to sell well through a lot of the country. Let's just not sell them right now. And let's move all those people to a third shift of the Fords that do sell well during this time of year. And now in Q2, I do think we get our 26 Lightnings and we get our STXs, and they're going to sell, half of what they normally sell, but who cares, because they don't need the credits anymore. And then you're going to be focused on the 27 affordable ones. And then I think we move into the future. And I think the future is your F1, I think T3, I think it dies. I think it becomes an E-Rev, and I think Super Duty's become an E-Rev. Tennessee plant, about a few quarters ago, they talked about it wasn't going to be a BEV plant anymore. It was going to be a multimodal.
That boils down to one thing, though, Chris: battery tech and cost of the battery.
Yeah.
Without those two things, it's going to have to go E-Rev to give us the normal
demand, obviously,
of range. Yeah.
No,
I agree with you. I don't think. I agree. T3's probably dead. I don't want to say for sure, but I agree. T3 is on its last limb if it's not. But I want to say that I think that it would be in its current form, it's dead. Does that make sense? So I agree with you on the E-Rev point, but I also think that it could make a return, but it would have to be under the guise of this new universal EV type of thing.
Yep.
But scaled up. Up meaning bigger size. So they would have to build it in the way that they're building the Gen 2s, but it would be scaled up. But what that means is 2030, 2031, 2032 instead of 2028,
So you're thinking later down the road and a little scaled up. Here's where I'm at, 2027.
And not as current design.
And I'm totally speculating. I have no ties to Ford whatsoever. I think then the next version of what we think the T3 is going to be, whether it's 2 to 3, 4 years from now, is a BYD Shark in Ford letters. Not a full.
I mean, we saw it. It was we saw it under a curtain, and the truck was done for all intents and purposes. To my knowledge, T3 was ready to go. It just needed a factory to build it, and to produce the parts, but that it was designed and ready to go. I don't see how they can release that truck now. Not
in this environment.
No. That and as it was built, because it was sort of a Gen 1.5 truck, right? It's not a true Gen 2, at least in the sense of this new affordable modularly built platform. They don't make sense.
Did you hear the last earnings call?
Yeah.
right at the end, I don't know if you caught it, but right at the end, as they were answering questions, and the moderator kind of talked over Jim just a little bit, and Jim seemed to hint at or mention right at the end that there might be some big decision at the end of Q4, and it just kind of went subtly. I kind of almost talked over by the person that was also kind of taking questions. But it would, I think, I'm curious what's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if the announcement was a pivot and a delay, just like we've seen that delay from Scout and the delay from, or the cancellation from Dodge. It would not surprise me if that just fell right in line and said, hey, we are going to focus on the universal platform. We're going to focus on getting the Tennessee plant open. We're going to focus on the CATL. We are, let's get that 27 affordable EV platform. That's what the market's looking for. And then you do build some E-revs out there of your bigger vehicles. And that's going to be what Scout's doing
right now. It just
and it may perhaps be too where there will be a few BEVs. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe they do ultra low production of that truck that's just a pure BEV form. Now that could probably come later down the road, it just like Scout, I think, is doing. It should be if you've got a small battery in there, and you've got your electric motors, and you've got your Ford Experience, and you've got all your powertrain in there is electric, then all you do is you just remove your battery. I'm sorry, you remove your generator and pop a bigger battery. Yeah, and you're right there. And I believe they are going to be, they know enough now. They have talented enough team of people, Doug Field, blah, 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 that they will look forward with that. They won't box themselves in. I don't believe that,
But I think that's where my kind of sullen disappointment comes from, is the wave from that moment of Jim's been to China. Jim gets it. He made that bold move to get Tesla. He said we would not make a boring EV, and I'm sorry, I will not be a buyer of. I don't think I'll be a buyer of the Universal. I will stick.
I don't think I will be either, but I'll be honest. I don't think I would call it boring either. I'll have to see it to know for sure. But the people that I know that have seen it seem very excited by the product. Specifically the way it looks.
I think it will be a great EV. I think it will be. I think I will be excited for Ford and for the EV market. I think my wife might.
We're not buyers. Not. Me neither.
It's not for the same reason I'm not a buyer of the Model Y, or I'm not a buyer
of
Equinox,
the Mach-E
or the Equinox. It's nothing against those. That's just not my market. That's not my vehicle. And I'm not going to be excited for that. And so it's just it's not the enthusiast vehicle I was looking for. And and I want Ford to build that vehicle. I need them to build that huge mass market. Just I need Lucid to build the midsize. I won't buy the midsize, but I need it to be built. I won't. I'm not an R2 buyer, but my wife certainly would be.
Well, and that's where I think we're getting into that balance of like what does the market want? What does the company need? More importantly, I mean, you saw it. Just this week. I mean, Ford had not a great earnings report. It was good. It was strong. It was typical Ford, but there was a lot of headwinds, right? With the aluminum, fire and EV, sales not doing well, and the continued Model E losses. So there's a lot of headwinds there, but it just like the market just reacted so positively to Ford saying that they're going to focus on gas and hybrid that it's hard for me to see how at the very, very top of this company, there's not guys going, we need to stick with the moneymaker. We need to push more ICE and hybrid because Wall Street's killing us. They need to see. And I'm telling you, Ford was up 10%, just because in one day, because they basically said they were going to stop producing Lightning for a couple months, which has happened like 3 other times. But
and the investment, because they know they're going to. I bet Ford's going to have a great quarter because they're going to sell a bunch of gas vehicles and they're going to make a bunch of money in margin on them.
They always do sell a bunch of gas vehicles. It's just how many Lightning you sell in addition to that for guys like us,
that lose money.
And we've got a lot of comments going over.
We
here
do. Let's kick a couple. So let's look at so Anthony was saying, don't you think the depth of investment in electrification in general for the U.S. market has to do more with gas companies getting involved, forcing government's hand? I actually don't. I don't think the gas companies. No, I just think unfortunately the politics.
It's really not. It's the oil companies, and oil is in a lot more than just fuel. It's in a lot of
everything. Stuff. Yeah. My take on oil has always been why burn into vapor what is so necessary for everything else in life, right? I can recycle plastic. I can stuff that's in the roads.
If we'll do it. The business side of that is difficult to prove, but yeah, if we'll do it.
Today, maybe I can't, right? But Phil, at some point you could see a business case to redo asphalt or something like that, right? Yep. But you can, there's no possibility of being able to recycle what I burned from a car. And there are certain, areas where it is necessary to burn jet fuel and diesel and rocket fuel. It's not necessary for me to commute using that. And so burn it where it is necessary, but
then you got to look at the efficiency of where energy's not free, right? So our energy from our truck comes from some source that got converted from other sources. I still think that nuclear should be developed and really you go that route because it's the most efficient way to get fuel out of something. But 25% of our gasoline goes as energy. The rest of it goes out in the tailpipe. But you look at like coal or hydro or wind, they're just really hard to ROI.
Yeah, I think that the countries that have made programs that put government support behind things have done well. I think the nature of our country being so big and so vast and so wide and so expansive has made it difficult. I think being in Norway, where Norway's a huge oil producing country, and they have done a great job with incentives. They're starting to back away from those incentives because they've accomplished what they needed to. They have it's a very compact country with very low speed limits that lends itself well to electrification. China has done, of course, an amazing job of supporting their infrastructure, and the amount of solar and stuff that they have in China, the amount of air quality that's been improved in China by using electricity. There's just, there's so much of that. The politics that we've really messed up, mixing politics and technology. So I don't think, of course, oil and gas has some hand in there. I don't think it's as oversized as some people might think. Certainly gas and oil don't support it, but I think it's just been demonized so much,
Yeah.
Do you guys think in general, high performance market for sports cars in the United States, the American manufacturer is still focused on gas? The Corvette is a hybrid.
Well, it depends on the market. So like the Plaid in sub $100,000 numbers here. Okay. We're talking about sports cars that Jason, Chris, and me could actually get
not
our hands on someday.
Not a Bugatti or
nothing faster than a Plaid, and you can pick up a Plaid for $50,000 used.
Yeah. So other than the Sapphire, right? Isn't technically Sapphire
$250,000?
Yeah.
Well, all I'm saying is sub $100,000. There's nothing even close. You take a brand new Plaid and it runs with a new ZR1 Corvette. I am not suggesting they're the same car. They drive totally different. A lot of guys that drive the Plaid think it's a boring car. I've driven a lot of Teslas. They are kind of a boring car, but they're a comfortable, boring car. And it's affordable on certain cars. So I don't think that the high performance market's ever going to quit gasoline.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to make it. There's no, I can't take my Lightning and tune it and make it run 9s.
Yeah.
There's something, and I think you'll go to biofuel. I like F1's already starting to do it. We see tons of, the exotic sports cars, they'll go to a biofuel of some kind, and it.
Yeah. I've built hundreds of cars in the rebuilder, and I was a huge supercharged Ford nut. So I have a lot of like Terminator Cobras. I've had like 4 of those, and we had several of them on E85 because it's 100 octane. It's great fuel. So no, I think that market's going to stay gas for a long time, just because the gearhead guys typically aren't the EV guys. Now there's some EVs on Rocky Mountain Race Week. The Mach-E guy does really well. So they're starting to kind of get, the Sapphire was on Drag Week or something. They took it out and did that. It wasn't completely rejected by those guys. They think it's kind of cool. Would they own one? I don't know, but gas is going to be around. It's not. I don't think we're a long ways from that.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends in like the Mustang space, and they're not interested in EVs right now. I mean, they're like, no, 0 to 60. What's 0 to 60? I'll whip your ass on the track. I mean, it's just.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the other thing is that you can just get some of those tuners and stuff. You can just get so cheap, and you can go down.
So many things you can do, Chris. It's not just a tuner. You can supercharge. You can cam. You can do so many things. Now it's
supported by the manufacturer nowadays too. Yeah, like absolutely. you can get a warranty with it.
Ford will put you on a Whipple on your F-150.
I can remember in high school, I got my first car for $500 off some guy that had it in his yard, and we went down to a wrecking yard, and we grabbed parts that we needed out of there, and then we went down to an auto parts store and got the camshaft, and then we pulled the motor and we cleaned it, and we got the gasket, and I mean there's something about doing that, you know what I mean? And
then you get the other end of the scale, Chris. We've got some comments about being able to tow, and that's kind of the thing of where I'm at, so I tow a lot.
Where's the tow one? Let me just work my way down some of these. Let's see. We've got Matt saying just can't see him discontinuing the top selling EV, and can't let go of the number 1 selling truck. But I'll tell you what, they let go of being the number 2 selling EV. They let go of that just fine. We're not.
And the problem for me is that we're talking 10,000 trucks, which when you compare to ICE, it's still such a small number that when I feel like when Ford looks at it, they're like, it's not, the juice is not worth the squeeze, especially if we see what we're going to see where sales collapse. I mean, JD Power came out with an article today that their latest data, and nothing confirmed yet, but Jim had an interview a few weeks ago with Joanna Stern, and he said, I predict that we will see it in October, the month of October, around a 50% drop. That was 10% registrations going down to 5% registrations.
Yeah.
The article that I believe was JD Power put out yesterday estimates that at 60% drop instead of a 50% drop. It's worse than even what Jim thought, and I think he was being a little overzealous, to be honest. And so if that's truly the case, that stays that way, that we go through 2026, which I don't think that will happen for the entire year, but if we go 6 months and it stays at 5%, 4%, I don't see how any company can look at that and say, we were already losing money, now we're going to lose even more money and produce less trucks. I don't know. I just don't see how it works right now. Things can change. So much can change. But it doesn't look great. And I don't see how Ford can't give up that title, because I don't think they have a choice if sales are that bad.
Yeah. What I'm hoping is that they can They need to just make something that makes money, and they've said that they're committed to doing that.
You have to. They won't be here. I mean, we have. We all have to.
It's just
that's what I tell people. They have to balance the company, though. I hear people on threads. Oh well, Lincoln should be all BEV. Cadillac's killing it. Guys, they're not. They're just. I know they have more models out, and that's great.
Outsells it by a lot.
Yeah, and I have a friend that sells Cadillacs. He cannot sell that SIQ without taking 10 to 20 grand off the MSRP, because people are looking at these things and they're going, oh, well, I know it's going to depreciate 50% this year too. These people know EVs now. These aren't newer buyers who are jumping in saying, oh, let me just buy it. They might own a Rivian. They might own a Lightning. They've seen this game now that it's been 5 to 6 years, right, of these vehicles being out. So they're not just going to take the jump like they were. They'll stick with the regular Escalade. So I just, I'm glad that Cadillac and GM has a lot of models, but they're not any further ahead than Ford is. They just have more models out. In fact, they're not.
Well, that brings up some of those questions, Jace. That the Chevy max range truck. That's the only thing. I am a diehard Ford nut, have been my whole life, and I am seriously considering. I made a post about a few months ago about heading to a GMC. I like the GMC personally better than this Chevy, but
yeah,
for
same.
the 450 to 5, there's some 8WT specs out there that are over 550 miles rated. See, we're talking 460, 470 for the 24-inch wheels. For me, to cut it in half to get 250 plus towing, that's what I need right now for the way I run my truck. But most guys aren't doing that. So but that's not. We also talked about, there's some comments here that talk about going to 3/4 tons and stuff, and I don't think that you're going to get let's be honest. The Chevy's 11,000 pound tow rated truck. It's not going to compare to a 2,500 or a 3,500 in any of the brands.
Yeah, I saw that from Tim. And that's a big truck. I mean, a 3,500.
It's a 9,000 pound truck that only pulls 11. You can get a 9,000 pound Super Duty that pulls 30,000 pounds. So they're not going to compare, but there is a market in there.
And you can put a gooseneck. I mean, there's other it's it's
a real work truck. Whereas the Chevy is a work truck, but with limits, right? You're going to have to charge it for 30 minutes, or you're going to have to unhook the trailer to put gas in it. I mean, for me, that works, but I don't think that's working for everybody.
Yeah, and see, like the latest comment though, like they have Ultium tech, but it doesn't make them money. It doesn't matter to the business if it doesn't make them money. They could have
for the first time.
Battery.
Ford for so long has been so transparent about their losses, and it's for the first time that GM came out and took that $1 billion write-off, and it was transparent about it and said, yes, we're taking this $1 billion write-off on EV assets, and hey, we're about to lay off 1,700 people, and you're just now seeing the crack in the EV from the GM side of things. And
you can't put 208 kilowatts in a GMC Denali and sell it for 80 grand, and then the Lightning with half the battery sells for 70 and they're not making money. That don't add up. The math's not math in there, guys.
I certainly wish I could just get a truth serum for just an hour out of somebody, and really just out of curiosity to understand the business, because I'd love to know what the losses, like where those losses are. Cause I guess naively and just out of an exuberance of hope, I had just really assumed this whole time, and repeated so many times to so many people, and clearly I was wrong, that all of these losses were because they were building factories and investing in these engineering, and this is what in order to build these things, and that then when you went into production, it would zero out. You know what I mean? Like you had to invest this money, and
I don't think you were wrong with that, Chris. Though I don't, and I will say you have to remember now that basically 2 years ago, those expenditures were coming from Skunk Works. And so you're not wrong. I mean, they are the factories were definitely money pits. They were burning money. But 2 years ago, they started investing in Skunk Works into billions. So it is, I agree with you. We should have hopefully saw those level out and lessen, especially with streamlined production and, cost lowering and stuff. But they are investing again. Let's put it that way. I think there was maybe only a year where they weren't really investing, right? Now they are putting back money into the Skunk Works team. So I don't think you were wrong.
Of their losses, they only said like a few 100,000 were like that Skunk Works team, and it was like $1 billion was the Model E current generation. I think that just floored me. I really thought it was the opposite. I thought so much of the losses were the investments and not the current generation. I knew they were losing some amount of money, but I figured it was just, hey, we're losing some money, but it was the offset for the credits and, quarter after quarter of billions.
I think it all comes down to batteries. I really do.
That's exactly right. So we're talking about even Anthony's comment there about talking about the high performance sector. There's no doubt
this one.
That the EV electric motor produces way more power for its package than a gas engine ever can. That even the torque curve, how fast it comes on. You guys, we're all EV fans. The torque curve comes on way faster, even the slowest EVs, than a Toyota Camry or a 4-cylinder Focus or any of these cars that are just. But the problem is the battery. That's what Jason, you just said it and you nailed it. You got to have the energy to put into that thing. And until battery tech gets to the point where it's cheap, like $10 versus $100 per kilogram watt, I'm messing that up. It's not going to get there. We got to get that battery tech where we can store enough energy. But even then, the charge, we got to build the infrastructure. You want to put 100 megawatt or a megawatt charger in to charge in 10 minutes? What's that going to do to our grid? That's not going to be able to be feasible today. We got to get to the point where we're not having rolling blackouts, brownouts. We got to put in more infrastructure. We got to build the infrastructure like they did with the gas network 100 years ago over time, more than 100 years ago. So I think we're not going to see electric go away. I think we're going to see it supplemented into an EREV type situation, hybrid. There's all these terms. It's a hybrid, but it depends on how you configure it. Trains have been that way for a long time, and they are the powerhouses. They are the workhorses. I think you look at Edison Motors in Canada, what he's doing. I think that's what we're going to see in the big truck world. We're going to see a lot more e-machine driven by a diesel or hydrogen or something that we can actually have a quick refuel time that has more efficiency. A lot of guys will say, well, why would you build the new REV, which was the Ram Charger? It's a gas and it's electric and it's all this complication. Well, it is, but it boils down to efficiency. You're a much smaller motor, turning in a generator at one speed,
smaller battery,
less emissions with a smaller battery to peak shave where you don't need 500 horsepower and 1,500 foot-pounds of torque in a semi. You need much less, just enough to keep that battery where the battery can handle those peak shave those loads. So I do think we're going to see a Super Duty EREV. I really do. And when we do, I'm going to own one because I think that's the way to go for the big trucks because I don't want to fire stroke.
I think we might see the EREV Super Duty first.
I do. Well, you saw the video that talks about a 5-liter with a possible, and they were having thermal issues trying to keep it cool. I mean, if they get through that, I'm going to have that.
Yeah, and I think that it's sort of a la Apple, where they sell more iPhones, they sell a few less iPads. So they put in, Ford does this with Mach-E. They put that in those vehicles first, test it out, make sure it works well, and then I believe that they will bring it to the F-150. That could change. They could decide to go to F-150 first, but I could see the first EREV being the Super Duty.
Super Duty, Jim has mentioned that before. That EREV.
That's exactly why I think that's exactly why I think it's first, because we've heard rumblings more about that when it comes to EREV than any other vehicle. They have more space to mess around with stuff. I think we'll see that, and it's a towing. A lot of people tow with F-250.
The only thing that I'm not crazy about is carrying two systems around all the time. But until battery tech gets the density of the energy down where it's reasonable and they're not heavy, I don't think we're going to have a way around it. Even me, with the EverDrive project that we're working on, you've got this big generator mounted somewhere, and you got to stop and put charge in your truck less than you do now. Then you got to go over to the gas station and fill that up every so often. It's burning about 1 gallon an hour is what we're seeing. So if you got an 8-gallon tank, you can run 8 hours on a tank, but you still have to do it. So I think that there will be a subset of Lightning owners who would willingly. We have a lot of people wanting it. So I know it's going to take off. I just, like Jace, I don't see you needing it or using it. It's a risk for your warranty. It's not going to fit your use case, but there are guys that do.
Yeah, and we just if it was F-150 form, maybe, so that we could have one that was BEV, one that was, so if we did decide to go on a trip to West Virginia, we're like, oh, we have, we can take this, but
throw the generator back and let it rip. I'm going to do that. I was actually headed to Florida in about 3 weeks, and I think that got changed now, but we were going to EREV the Lightning with EverDrive and see if we can go 500 miles on a tank of fuel. And I think 400, I'll just be honest, Zach's already went 350 on his standard range. So I can get 450 out of the extended range fairly easily. We're trying to hit that 500-mile mark. I think I've said that many times. So, but again, I don't like the idea of carrying two systems, but I don't want to mess with gas at all. So it's really I'm torn right now between dealing with the gas generators or not. Do I want to drive an EREV where I have to still put gas in it, but I'm going to charge it at home because it's cheaper to charge it at home than driving the gas truck. So we'll see how this goes. It's going to be an interesting year or two to play out in this space.
There were some thoughts in the chat that maybe EVs had been stigmatized a bit, that maybe they had been geared towards women. I got to tell you, in all my video numbers, women don't watch EV videos. I can tell you
my
that
wife
much.
doesn't care anything about it, and she drives one.
Yeah, and so I don't get the sense of that really at all. I think
I will say one caveat to that though is Mach-E. I do see a lot of Mach-E content and a lot of women. There's the Mach-E Girls Club. So I think Lightning might be just a little bit of exception to that just because it's a truck. But I do the Mach-E. I see so many women that absolutely love those vehicles, and they will platform for those vehicles, you know. And
my wife loves hers. She does not like to charge, even for 10 minutes. She just doesn't want. There's something she doesn't want to do it, and I get that. You know, for me, I actually kind of look forward to it, watching the charge curve and seeing how long and go get something to eat, walk around for a little bit.
We love it. Yeah, we're embracing
it, you know. But yeah. So like Matt's comment here, even with the negative aspect of all the drivetrain systems, the maintenance and stuff, he's going to buy a Super Duty. Matt, I'm right there with you because I want to get in my truck and drive to Florida when I want to and not have to stop. But I want the powertrain of the electric motors. That's just, there's nothing compared to that.
So
I completely agree with that. And I think that's why Ford looks at this and they say, okay, if we can give them, these people that really want this, a package that still gives you the electric drivetrain, right? But at a price that's more affordable, doesn't have any, you know, misgivings as far as, you know, you can use gas, you don't have to charge for 20 minutes, you know, whatever. I think Ford says if we can give that to people and make money off of it, why would we not build that? Why would we continue to sell Lightning when it doesn't make money for us? There's some, you know, trade-offs, obviously. For most people, they don't matter. But for many that seem to, you know, care, then okay. So the more and more I look at it, I just see, how does Ford not say, I think these people are going to buy a Ford anyway because they're going to buy our new E-Rev. Does it make sense? Even if we discontinue the Lightning.
You know, I'm not a tow guy, so you know, for you three, you know, you and Jason and Matt and Martin that tow regularly, what do you expect to get out of let's say you're a trailer, like a full size trailer that I see you guys kind of towing around? How many miles realistically, knowing that you're not letting it go?
100.
You're going out as
you mean right now?
Really?
Currently?
No, I'm sorry, not electric though. You're going back to your F-150 power eco.
Okay, so the F-150 gas and a 3.5 EcoBoost is a 36-gallon tank. That was an option, but that's pretty standard.
Power boost is 30.
Yeah, power boost 30. So that says we're standard gas 700 miles. You can do 300 to 350 pretty easy out of those trucks, pulling about as much as they'll stand to pull. Now, that 3.5 EcoBoost F-150 does not pull what the Lightning does. So you can't really compare the two. They don't pull. I've pulled with both. You're going to have the ass dragging the ground on the F-150 and the Lightning sitting up there handling it great. Now, the Lightning, I just did two trips towing on both of them. It's 120 to 160 miles, depending on how far you charge. 80% of the battery gets you about 120 to 140 miles. Yes, we've talked about this in a million episodes, 1,000 factors, but standard roads, standard, not in the winter, just normal driving, you're about 140 to 150 miles. Like Matt, 200 to 250. He doesn't tow over 60. I'm not that guy. If he got a camper, great, but he's a big camper, but I don't own a big camper. When I had a big camper, we used to go out to the Little Sahara sand dunes in Oklahoma. My diesel was cruise set on 75 miles an hour. It didn't matter the size of the camper. That's just what we did. A little crazy, yes, but that's what we did. So the Lightning, I towed tonight, a Ford Focus, 50 miles one way and one way back. I put about 85 miles on my truck tonight. I used half the battery.
So can the GM, can the big boy GMs get like what Matt is looking for? And I'm curious. And Matt, we got to get you on the show, man. We love
up to 250 miles towing is pretty easy. Pat has an extended range pulling his camper, and he has done 250 several times with it.
Yeah, I
mean, the problem is though too that they put the charge port on the back, so you might get more. You're unhooking it almost every single stop. So there's all these pros and cons. But and really to answer your question though, Chris, like The gas F-150 is hard to say because you can, if you have non-super crew, like you have a super cab, you can go as low as a 23-gallon tank. If you have a normal tank, it's 26. But like Martin said, 36 is a pretty popular option. And then Power Boost has 30, and then the largest tank is 36. So, I mean, if you're towing a lot, that's the cool part about gas F-150, right? And ICE is you can choose what you want. If you're towing a lot, you would buy the 36-gallon tank. And I wish that they would do the same for Lightning. But again, these are the blessings of profitability, right? Like this is why they offer trims and different levels, because they can make money on it, on any of them. Doesn't matter to them, right?
We need to do a late night episode just for Matt.
Yes.
Because just definitely you just got such a unique perspective with how much towing you do, and
the fact that Matt's towing a big camper. That's the key. So I tow a lot. Mine's heavy, not tall. Those campers, that the wind kills you more than anything else, and that's wind resistance.
Would be fun to get him and Alan on an episode together.
Would absolutely.
Let's do a towing
Alan,
episode.
I know,
We'll plan sometime to try to do a towing episode.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I love it.
Well, guys, we're like,
I was just gonna say, Martin and I were trying to limit it to 90 minutes, but we just get these chats going, man. We love it. This has been one of our greatest chats, guys, and I appreciate everybody that's been a part of it. Always great to have Matt, and we had Tim tonight, and just so many great people. Anthony involved.
We have a lot of good interface. I appreciate everybody bringing in, and we love the questions. Keep them coming as we have these. I would rather it be more of a live interaction than us just sitting up here rambling for 2 hours.
Yeah,
so.
And I don't want people to questions. Thanks for Jacob for coming on. And
I don't want people to get discouraged though. We are EV. I feel like we're not being negative a little bit, but I think we have to be realists too. We have to be real with what is going on in the world, and right now we're not in an EV great spot. We're just we're not. It's we're just not. And that's okay. Things are coming. Electric vehicles are not going away. But it just means, to me, is what I'm taking it as, is that I need to go back and do some more grassroots, getting butts in seats, and showing how awesome electric vehicles can be. That's kind of what I'm taking it as.
If they stop making the Lightning today, I'm still going to be driving one for the next 8 to 10 years. They've made enough. There's enough used market, and they're lasting so long. I mean, we've seen some 150,000-mile Lightnings that are just barely degraded.
Yeah.
10 years from now, we'll still be driving them.
I think at some point, my challenge is going to be, because I love the Lightning. So I think my challenge is going to be, as I come up on my warranty period, I'm not near Martin enough that I can trust. I don't want to, I'm going to need an extended warranty. So we need to do an episode somewhere in a couple years where I need to find me an extended warranty.
There's a couple of, I've had a lot of guys ask me about warranties because my specific sales market is rebuilt title, which is no warranty at all.
Yeah.
So there's been some guys there is some aftermarket companies now that are providing warranties, rebuilt title or not, for batteries and all of that.
Yeah, and my challenge is California is so restrictive. You can't buy. It's like the big names are like Grainger, and there's another one. There's another one's well regarded like Grainger, and I can't buy them because they're and I think Jace, we talked about this because I was potentially looking at yours.
Crazy, Chris. You're the biggest EV market in the world out there.
Yeah, and in fact, both of your trucks, there was my consideration for buying a truck from Martin and from buying Jace, one of Jace's original trucks, was I wanted to be able to get an extended warranty, and it was so hard to find an extended warranty in California that wasn't completely overpriced. And they've locked out the market for some of these great values like Grainger and some of these others. There is an ability through AAA, and I'm going to have to consider it next year, where if I think it's like a thing where it's like $20 a month, something like that, but it's an in perpetuity type of thing. So it's a thing where as long as I buy it within the first year, so the first 2 years are kind of wasted. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm paying for the first 2 years and it's just money in the garbage because I've already got my standard warranty. And then as long as I keep paying in perpetuity, I have this extended warranty. So I'd have to do the math on that and find out if I kept the truck for 5 or 6 years. But it's based on everything we've talked about.
Let's see how many problems you have with this new one, though, because I think your experience is a little different. And we've seen it both ways. I've never had a problem with a Lightning. Jace has never really had any major problems. I think that It just depends on the so I would never buy a warranty even when I don't have a warranty. But I'm a little different because I'd fix it myself.
Right. Yeah. And see, my nightmare, I'm not so worried about the battery because I'm never going to hit my 120,000 miles with the amount of miles I drive. In 8 years is plenty. I'll probably get whatever another EV is before I reach my 8 years. My concern is more the things like the screen goes out, or is one of these something in there that requires them to tear it apart to the point where suddenly I've got, a $6,000 bill. And I wish I would have just paid $3,000 for the extended warranty. One of those types of deals, or the light bar, or the tail light, or one of these things that is just so dang expensive for every one of these parts.
You need a Martin Rebuilds out there.
I do. And you would think in California that there would have to be one.
I think if I moved out there and started a shop, I'd be swamped.
Yeah. You would. And the thing is that I don't have any. I don't mean this in a disparaging way. I don't have any rednecks out in California, man. I need some. There are too many people that work for Facebook and Google, and not enough people that know how to. I don't have any renters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. No, I don't take that negatively at all. I own that. So yeah.
Not enough people know what a 10mm socket is out here.
Well, not anymore. You got to have a Torx Plus socket. It's not just a 10 anymore. Ford keeps changing things.
Oh man.
Well, guys, this has been a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of fun. We will do it again next week. Thanks for everybody tagging along. If you haven't already, and I keep forgetting to put up the little banner. We're going to put it in now that it's kind of wrapped up. But don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the videos on Martin Rebuilds and Bo Family EV and Turn Down for What. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. Thank you guys once again. And we're going to call this a wrap. And we will see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.